Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto became the new Batman, the Gotham Guardian DC verse. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Worlds Apart. The dimensional rift tore through reality with a sound like thunder splitting stone. Reality fragmented into jagged shards of light, each reflecting a different world, a different possibility. In the epicenter, a young man with spiky blonde hair and whisker-like markings on his cheeks tumbled through the void, his black and orange jumpsuit torn and bloody. Naruto Uzumaki, hero of the 4th grade ninja war, had been fighting Kagaya Otsutsuki alongside Sasuke when everything went wrong. The goddess's dimensional manipulation had collided with Sasuke's space-time technique, creating an instability no one could have predicted. The last thing Naruto remembered was reaching for Sasuke's hand as the world ripped apart around them. Now he was falling, not through air, through reality itself. Kurama, Naruto called into his mindscape, desperate for the Nine Tails' guidance. But the fox's presence felt muted, distant, as if separated by layers of thick glass. The dimensional tunnel constricted suddenly, forcing him forward at impossible speed. Ahead, a patch of darkness materialized, not the absence of light, but the presence of something else. Something solid, real. Naruto hurtled toward it, arms outstretched. The remnants of his 6 paths sage mode flickering around him like dying fireflies. The darkness expanded, swallowing him whole, and suddenly, impact. Cold rain pelted his face. Concrete scraped his palms. Unfamiliar sounds assaulted his ears, mechanical wails, thunderous rumbling from the ground, harsh voices speaking words he somehow understood yet had never learned. Naruto pushed himself to his knees, blinking away blood and rainwater. Towering structures of glass and stone surrounded him, reaching skyward like mountains made by human hands. Strange lights illuminated the darkness in harsh blues and yellows, reflecting off rain's slick surfaces. The air tasted wrong, heavy with unfamiliar chemicals and devoid of natural chakra. "Where the hell am I?" he muttered, staggering to his feet. A scream pierced the night, followed by the distinctive crack of combat. Instinct took over before conscious thought. Naruto launched himself toward the sounds, leaping between the GE structures with chakra-enhanced bounds. Whatever world this was, people in danger sounded the same. The scene he found made him falter mid-jump. In an open area surrounded by buildings, a battle raged. A massive figure, easily 7 feet tall with tubes feeding glowing green fluid into bulging muscles, had pinned a black-caped man to a memorial statue. Even from his perch atop a decorative ledge, Naruto could see the caped man's arm bent at an unnatural angle, his breathing labored beneath a cowled mask resembling some kind of bat. "I break you finally, Batman," the monster growled in an accent Naruto couldn't place. "Gotham breaks with you." Surrounding them were at least 20 figures in mismatched clothing, some wearing grotesque masks that reminded Naruto uncomfortably of Toba's disguise. They cheered as the giant squeezed, and the caped man, Batman, gasped in obvious agony. "The fear toxin worked perfectly, Bane," said a thin man wearing a burlap mask with roughly stitched eyes and mouth. "His adrenal system is completely overwhelmed. He's seeing his worst nightmares while you crush his spine." Poetic, don't you think? Naruto had seen enough. These weren't shinobi. Their chakra signatures were barely present. Mere civilian flickers compared to what he was accustomed to sensing, but they were clearly enemies of the man being tortured. He formed a shadow clone seal, manifesting 10 perfect copies of himself. The startled gasps of onlookers who noticed his appearance confirmed this world wasn't accustomed to such techniques. "Let's go," Naruto commanded his clones, who nodded and dispersed in synchronized formation. The first clone landed amid the crowd, sending 3 thugs flying with spinning kicks before they could even register his presence. 2 more clones engaged the outer perimeter, disarming gunmen with precise strikes to pressure points Sakura had taught him during the war. The real Naruto targeted the burlap-masked figure first, instinctively identifying him as the tactician. With a single bound, he crossed the distance between them, appearing as little more than an orange blur to unenhanced eyes. "What the," was all the thin man managed be. For Naruto's palm strike connected with his solar plexus, carefully calibrated to incapacitate without killing. The man crumpled, a spray of gas escaping from devices on his wrists as he fell. Naruto held his breath and leapt clear of the cloud, remembering the man's words about fear toxin. 4 clones converged on the behemoth called Bane, who roared in confusion at the identical attackers. More metas. Impossible. The gas should. A Rasengan-wielding clone interrupted him, driving the spiraling chakra sphere into the ground at Bane's feet. The concrete shattered, disrupting the giant's balance and forcing him to release his victim. The caped figure slumped to the ground, barely conscious but still fighting to rise. Bane recovered quickly, swinging massive fists that dissipated 2 clones into smoke. He stared in momentary confusion before a feral grin split his face. Interesting trick, little man, he growled, adjusting tubes feeding green liquid into his system. His muscles swelled further, veins bulging beneath skin stretched taut. But Bane is strongest there is. Naruto hadn't survived a war by underestimating opponents. This Bane moved with surprising speed for his size, demonstrating trained fighting techniques rather than mere brute force. But compared to Madara, compared to Kagaya, he was painfully slow. Dodging a punch that shattered stone where he'd stood a moment before, Naruto flipped over Bane's shoulder and landed behind him. 2 clones attacked simultaneously from opposite sides, forcing the giant to divide his attention. The real Naruto targeted the tubes feeding green fluid into Bane's body, severing them with a chakra-enhanced chop. Bane's agonized roar echoed across the open space as the stimulant spurted from broken tubes. He staggered, eyes widening in panic as strength visibly drained from his massive frame. "No, my venom, whatever you're pumping into yourself," Naruto said, voice steady as he prepared to end the fight, "it's over now." The remaining clones converged, launching Bane skyward with synchronized kicks. Naruto leapt after him, delivering a final axe kick that sent the giant crashing back to earth with enough force to crater the concrete but not enough to kill. Bane lay still, unconscious before he could comprehend how thoroughly he'd been defeated. Landing lightly beside the fallen giant, Naruto turned toward the caped figure, who had somehow regained his feet despite grievous injuries. The man swayed dangerously, one arm hanging useless at his side, cowled face betraying nothing but the tightness around his exposed jaw. "Who are you?" the Batman growled, voice like gravel scraping stone. Before Naruto could answer, 3 remaining thugs opened fire with strange weapons that spat metal projectiles. Not unlike Senbon but far more lethal judging by their impact against nearby surfaces. His clones intercepted 2 attackers, but the third had a clear line of fire at the injured Batman. Naruto moved without thinking, appearing between Batman and the attacker. Pain lanced through his shoulder as one projectile found its mark, but his accelerated healing already began mending the damage. The Null clone disarmed the shooter with a well-placed kick. "I asked who you are," Batman repeated, somehow making his voice threatening despite his obvious weakness. "Naruto Uzumaki," he answered simply, wincing as his body expelled the foreign object from his shoulder. "And you're in no condition to be making demands, believe it." The area suddenly flooded with light from above as a thunderous mechanical roar announced the arrival of some kind of flying machine. Batman's posture changed subtly, relaxing almost imperceptibly despite his injuries. "Reinforcements?" Naruto asked, scanning for additional threats. "Of a sort," Batman replied, then promptly collapsed. Naruto caught him before he hit the ground, startled by how heavy the man's armor made him. The flying machine descended, rev-aling itself as some kind of vehicle with no visible pilot. A section opened in its underside, and a mechanical voice emanated from within. "Authorized biometric signatures detected. Emergency medical protocol engaged." Naruto hesitated only briefly before carrying the unconscious man into the strange craft. The interior reorganized itself into what appeared to be medical transport configuration. Automated systems began assessing Batman's condition as the vehicle sealed itself. "Unknown meta-human detected," the mechanical voice announced. "Security Protocol Alpha 9 engaged. Identify yourself." "Naruto Uzumaki," he repeated, watching in fascination as the craft's systems worked. "Look, I'm not from around here, but I just want to help." A pause, then, voice stress analysis indicates truthful statement. "Emergency override protocol engaged. Please secure patient for transport." Following intuitive pictograms that appeared on a nearby surface, Naruto strapped the unconscious Batman into place. The vehicle hummed, rising smoothly into the rainy night. "You saved Master Bruce's life," came a different voice, elderly, British accented, emanating from a small communication device. "For that, you have my gratitude. However, I must insist on knowing your intentions." Naruto stared at the device, unsure how to respond. "I saw someone in trouble and helped. That's all. Who are you? And what is this place?" "My name is Alfred Pennyworth. As for where you are, welcome to Gotham City, young man. Though I dare say it hasn't made the best first impression." The flying vehicle accelerated through the night, raindrops streaking across transparent sections as buildings blurred past. Naruto watched the alien cityscape with mixture of awe and trepidation. Everything about this place felt wrong: the architecture, the technology, the very air itself. Most concerning was how differently Chakra behaved here. His own reserves felt unchanged, but the natural energy surrounding him was turbulent, resistant to his attempts at sensing. "This isn't my world," he said finally. A lengthy pause followed before Alfred responded, "That much is becoming apparent. Please hold tight, we're approaching the cave." The vehicle banked sharply, descending toward what appeared to be solid rock face before an opening materialized, swallowing them into darkness. They emerged into a vast underground cavern filled with technology beyond anything Naruto had ever seen, even in the most advanced hidden cloud facilities. The craft settled onto a circular platform that began to rotate as soon as they touched down. Medical equipment descended from the ceiling while robotic arms extended to carefully extract Batman from the vehicle. Naruto jumped clear, landing in a defensive crouch as he surveyed the cave. Natural stone formations mingled with advanced technology in a space that dwarfed the Hokage's underground bunker. Actual bats clustered in distant ceiling crevices, occasionally swooping through the open air above computer terminals larger than Ichiraku's entire ramen shop. An elderly man in formal attire approached briskly, concern etched deeply in the lines of his face. "Master Bruce," he murmured, helping transfer the injured man to a medical platform. Only then did he turn to Naruto, sharp eyes assessing him with surprising acuity. "Mr. Uzumaki, I presume." Naruto nodded, maintaining a respectful distance as the man, Alfred, began cutting away Batman's armor to reveal catastrophic injuries beneath. The shinobi winced at the extent of the damage. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding, what appeared to be chemical burns across the exposed skin. It was a miracle the man had remained conscious at all. "He needs a hospital," Naruto said, stepping forward. "I know some medical jutsu that might help stabilize." "That won't be necessary," came a new voice, female and digitally distorted. A large screen illuminated, displaying a masked face framed by red hair. "And hospitals are out of the question. Batman's identity remains secret for a reason." Alfred didn't look up from his work. "Oracle, we have a situation. Master Bruce's injuries are beyond my capacity to treat. We need Drive Tompkins immediately." Quote, "Already contacted her," the woman replied, her masked gaze shifting to Naruto. "Who's Sunshine Boy?" Despite everything, Naruto bristled at the dismissive tone. "Name's Naruto Uzumaki, and I just saved your friend from having his spine crushed by some oversized chakra junkie." The masked woman, Oracle, leaned forward slightly. "Chakra junkie, interesting terminology, Alfred. Preliminary facial recognition is finding zero matches. Biometric scanning shows anomalies. His body temperature and energy readings are off the charts. I'm standing right here," Naruto pointed out, crossing his arms. "And yeah, you won't find records of me because I'm not from this world. Some kind of dimensional rift dropped me here during a battle." Oracle's expression remained unreadable behind her mask, but her voice sharpened. "Another dimensional traveler. That would be the third this month. Something's weakening the barriers between realities." Alfred Feeney, shed attaching medical equipment to the unconscious Batman, then straightened with a weariness that reminded Naruto painfully of the third Hokage in his final years. "Whatever the case," the butler said, "Master Bruce owes his life to Mr. Uzumaki's intervention. For now, that earns him the benefit of doubt." He turned to Naruto, extending a hand formally. "Thank you for your assistance, young man. However, I must ask, what do you intend now?" The question caught Naruto off guard. In the chaos of arrival and combat, he'd had no time to consider his situation. Here he stood in an alien world, separated from everything and everyone he knew. No Kurama, no Sakura, no Kakashi-sensei to provide guidance. No Konoha to protect. I need to find a way home, he said finally, accepting Alfred's handshake. There's a war one was in the middle of. People depending on me. Oracle's digital image flickered as she adjusted something off-screen. War. Between whom? The allied shinobi forces and Madara Uchiha, later Kagaya Otsutsuki. The progenitor of chakra itself. Naruto paused at their blank expressions. You don't have shinobi in this world, do you? Ninjas, you mean? Oracle asked, tone skeptical. Not with the abilities you demonstrated. The Batwing's cameras captured your fight. Those duplicates of yourself, the energy sphere, moving faster than Bane could track, those aren't standard ninja skills where I come from. Alfred cleared his throat. Perhaps we could continue this fascinating discussion after Dr. Tompkins arrives. Mr. Uzumaki appears exhausted, and Master Bruce requires immediate attention. For the first time, Naruto registered his own fatigue. The dimensional transition had drained him severely, and though his chakra reserves remained substantial, his body demanded rest. The adrenaline of combat had masked the bone-deep weariness that now settled over him like a weighted blanket. Yeah, he agreed, shoulders slumping slightly. Food would be good too, if you've got any. Alfred's expression softened marginally. The kitchen is fully stocked. If you'll follow me, I can prepare something while we wait for the doctor. Oracle's voice stopped them. Alfred, are you sure that's wise? We still know nothing about him. The elderly butler turned toward the screen, one eyebrow raised. If Mr. Uzumaki intended harm, Ms. Gordon, he could have simply allowed Master Bruce to die. Besides, I doubt our security measures would prove particularly effective against someone who dispatched Bane as if he were a schoolyard bully. Naruto followed Alfred toward a stone staircase, pausing briefly to address the screen. I understand your caution. In your position, I'd feel the same. But I promise you, I'm not your enemy. Where I come from, I protect my village. It's my ninja way. Oracle studied him for a long moment before nodding once. Alfred will show you to the kitchen. I'll monitor Bruce's condition and continue background checks. And Naruto, thank you for saving him. Whatever else happens, I owe you for that. The kitchen, located upstairs in what Naruto gradually realized was an actual mansion, bore little resemblance to any he'd seen before. Gleaming surfaces of metal and stone housed appliances whose functions he could only guess at. Alfred moved through the space with practiced efficiency, preparing a meal while Naruto perched awkwardly on a high stool at a central island. So, Naruto began, watching the butler work. That Batman guy, he's important around here. Alfred paused briefly in slicing bread. Master Bruce is Gotham's protector. For over a decade, Batman has stood between this city and those who would destroy it. Like that Bane guy and the Scarecrow mask weirdo. Precisely. Bane and Dr. Crane represent two of Batman's most dangerous adversaries. Their coordinated attack tonight suggests something larger at play. Alfred slid a sandwich across the counter, followed by a glass of milk. You'll find the food here different from what you're accustomed to, I imagine. Naruto took a cautious bite, then a larger one as hunger overcame caution. The flavors were indeed strange. The bread denser, the meat iced differently than anything in Konoha, but his stomach didn't care. It's good, he managed between bites. Not ramen, but good. A small smile touched Alfred's lips. High praise indeed. Now, while you eat, perhaps you could elaborate on how you came to be in Gotham. Oracle mentioned dimensional travelers becoming more common, but your arrival seems particularly dramatic. Between mouthfuls, Naruto explained the war against Madara, Kagaya's appearance, and the dimensional rift that had torn him from his world. Alfred listened attentively, occasionally asking clarifying questions that revealed a sharp tactical mind beneath his butler's demeanor. So this chakra, Alfred said when Naruto finished, it's a form of energy manipulation common in your world. Everyone has chakra, Naruto explained. But shinobi learn to control and shape it. Most people in my world can't use techniques like my shadow clones. Fascinating. And these shadow clones, they're solid duplicates, not mere illusions. Naruto grinned, forming a single seal. A perfect copy appeared beside him, waving cheerfully at Alfred before dispelling itself. Completely real. I can make thousands if needed, but it divides my chakra each time. Alfred maintained his composure admirably, merely raising an eyebrow. Most impressive. I can see why Oracle's systems registered unusual energy patterns. Speaking of which, a subtle chime interrupted him. Alfred touched a concealed panel, and Oracle's voice filled the kitchen. Dr. Tompkins has arrived and is treating Bruce. Initial prognosis is not good. Multiple vertebral fractures, severe internal trauma, compound fractures in his right arm and shoulder. The fear toxin has been neutralized, but the physical damage. She paused, voice tight with controlled emotion. Alfred, she's saying he won't be able to continue as Batman. Not with these injuries. Not even with our technology. The elderly butler closed his eyes briefly, composure cracking tea. Oh, reveal profound grief before smoothing back into professional detachment. I see. Please inform me when Dr. Tompkins is ready to discuss treatment options. There's more, Oracle continued. Holy, CE scanners are lighting up across the city. Word spreading that Batman is down. The Penguin's already making moves in the Bowery. Two-Face has hit 3 banks simultaneously. It's like they were waiting for this. They were, Alfred said grimly. Bane and Scarecrow were merely the vanguard. This was coordinated. Naruto set down his empty glass, expression hardening as he listened. The situation sounded painfully familiar. Enemies striking when they perceived weakness, like when Pain had attacked Konoha during Tsunade's absence. What will happen to the city without Batman? He asked quietly. Alfred and Oracle shared a look loaded with unspoken communication. Gotham survived before Batman, Alfred said carefully, but it was a different city then. Master Bruce's absence, even temporary, creates a vacuum that less savory elements will rush to fill. People will die, Oracle added bluntly. The GCPD is corrupt and understaffed. The Justice League has its hands full with global threats. Nightwing is off-world, Red Hood is unreliable, and Robin is too inexperienced to handle this alone. Naruto stood, decision crystallizing even as a part of him questioned his own sanity. Then I'll help while I'm here. Silence greeted his declaration. Oracle recovered first. You don't know Gotham. You don't know our enemies. You don't know our laws or customs. No offense, Naruto, dropping you into this situation would be like dropping Batman into the 4th grade ninja war. Naruto interrupted, blue eyes flashing with determination. I adapt quickly, and from what I saw tonight, my abilities work just fine in this world. Alfred studied him with new intensity. You're offering to temporarily assume Batman's role. Not exactly, Naruto shook his head. I can't be Batman, but I can help protect your village, your city, until he recovers or until I find a way home. Whichever comes first. Oracle's laugh held little humor. You make it sound so simple. It is simple, Naruto insisted. People need protection. I have the power to help. Everything else is just details. A new voice joined the conversation, weak but commanding, emanating from the kitchen's communication system. Alfred, bring him down. Alfred straightened immediately. Master Bruce, you should be resting. Now, Alfred. The butler sighed deeply. Very well, Mr. Uzumaki, if you'll follow me. They descended back to the cave, where Batman, now Bruce Wayne with his mask removed, lay on the medical platform. A gray-haired woman in a lab coat stood beside him, disapproval evident in every line of her posture. Bruce Wayne, the injured man, introduced himself without preamble. You saved my life. Naruto approached cautiously, shocked by how different the man looked without his cowl. Still imposing despite his injuries, but human in a way Batman hadn't been. Dark hair, sharp features lined with pain and exhaustion, piercing blue eyes that evaluated everything they saw. Naruto Uzumaki, he replied. And yeah, I did. You're welcome. The ghost of a smile touched Wayne's lips. Direct. Good. His gaze shifted briefly to Alfred. I heard your offer, and I heard you shouldn't be talking. The doctor interjected, adjusting something on his IV. 10 minutes, Bruce. Then I'm sedating you regardless of your protests. Wayne ignored her, focus unwavering on Naruto. Oh, Rackle will send you everything you need to know about Gotham. Alfred will provide equipment. You'll train with me when I'm able. Naruto blinked, caught off guard by the immediate acceptance. Just like that, you're trusting me to protect your city. No, Wayne replied flatly. I'm giving you the chance to earn that trust. Oracle will be watching your every move. Step out of line once, and the Justice League comes down on you with everything they have. Justice League. The doctor. Drive. Tompkins, according to the ID clipped to her coat, made an exasperated sound. Heroes with powers that make yours look like parlor tricks. Young man. Now, Bruce, enough. Your body needs rest to heal. Wayne's eyes never left Naruto's. Why did you help me? The question seemed simple but wasn't. Naruto considered his answer carefully. Because it was right. Because wherever I am, whatever world I'm in, I don't turn my back on people who need help. Wayne studied him for a long moment before nodding slightly. We'll see. Alfred stepped forward as doctor. Tompkins began administering a sedative. Perhaps we should continue this discussion upstairs, Mr. Uzumaki. Master Bruce requires rest. As they turned to leave, Wayne's voice followed them, already slurring slightly from medication. Naruto. Gotham's different from your world. Darker. Remember that. The next several hours passed in a whirlwind of information. Oracle, who eventually introduced herself as Barbara Gordon, transmitted files on Gotham's major criminal elements, geographic layout, and recent crime patterns. Alfred provided a guest room where Naruto could rest, though sleep eluded him as he absorbed the staggering complexity of his new temporary home. Gotham City was a sprawling urban center with over 12 million inhabitants, dwarfing Konoha's population many times over. Its architectural mix of ultramodern skyscrapers and Gothic structures reminded Naruto of nothing in the Five Great Nations. Most disturbing W.E. the rogues gallery of criminals Batman regularly confronted, individuals whose psychological profiles read more like horror stories than human biographies. The Joker kills people because he finds it funny, Naruto asked, scanning through files on a device Alfred called a tablet. And he's escaped imprisonment how many times? 23 at last count, Barbara replied through the communication system. Her masked image had been replaced by her actual face, young, intelligent, with red hair and sharp green eyes. Arkham Asylum has a revolving door policy when it comes to supervillains. Naruto set the tablet down, rubbing his temples. Your judicial system makes no sense. In Konoha, someone like that would be executed. Barbara supplied. That's not how we do things here. Batman doesn't kill, period. I wasn't going to say executed, Naruto corrected, though the lie fell flat even to his own ears. The truth was, Konoha's justice system could be brutally efficient with irredeemable threats. But there must be more secure facilities. Alfred entered with fresh clothing, simple garments that would allow Naruto to blend in better than his tattered jumpsuit. Master Bruce H. has certain principles he will not compromise, regardless of practicality. No killing is chief among them. Naruto accepted the clothes with a nod of thanks. I can respect that. Plenty of shinobi follow similar codes. Do you? Barbara asked directly. The question gave Naruto pause. Throughout the war, he had maintained his own determination not to kill when alternatives existed. But he had also recognized situations where lethal force became necessary, particularly against enemies like Madara who threatened entire populations. I avoid killing when possible, he said finally. But I don't make absolute promises about it either. Sometimes protecting the many means. He trailed off, uncomfortable with the implications. Barbara's expression hardened slightly. If you're going to help in Gotham, you follow Batman's rules. No killing. No excessive force. No exceptions. Even against someone like the Joker. Especially against someone like the Joker, she insisted. The moment you cross that line, you become what you're fighting against. Naruto wanted to argue but held his tongue. He was a visitor in their world, their city. Their rules applied, however strange they might seem. I understand. Alfred cleared his throat. Perhaps we should address more immediate concerns. Mr. Uzumaki will need suitable attire if he's to assist with patrol tonight. Tonight? Naruto questioned. I'm going out there tonight. Quote. Barbara's image nodded grimly. The underworld already knows Batman is injured. Every criminal organization in Gotham is making moves while they think they can. People are dying while we talk. The weight of responsibility settled across Naruto's shoulders, familiar yet different from what he'd carried in Konoha. Here he was a stranger, fighting to protect people he didn't know in a city he didn't understand. Yet the core remained the same: innocent lives threatened by those who would harm them. "I'll need to modify my fighting style," he said, mind already calculating adjustments. "My techniques are too distinctive, too obviously not Batman." Alfred's eyebrow rose slightly. "Indeed. Perhaps something between your abilities and Master Bruce's methods would be appropriate. Follow me, if you would." The butler led him to a different section of the cave where mannequins displayed various versions of the Batman costume. Alfred selected components from different models, assembling a hybrid that would accommodate Naruto's smaller frame while maintaining the intimidating silhouette. "The cape and cowl are essential," Alfred explained, demonstrating the mask's features. "The suit is armored Kevlar weave. It won't stop high-caliber rounds directly, but it disperses impact. The utility belt contains—" "I won't need most of those gadgets," Naruto interrupted. "My techniques can replace them. But the suit itself will help me look the part." Barbara's voice joined them from nearby monitors. "The appearance matters almost as much as capability. Criminals are superstitious. The mere silhouette of Batman can prevent crimes before they happen." "Psychological warfare," Naruto nodded. "Shinobi understand that concept well." As Alfred helped him don the modified suit, Naruto considered the strange turns his life had taken. From outcast child to hero of Konoha, and now to impersonating a bat-themed vigilante in an alien world. If the situation weren't so dire, he might have laughed at the absurdity. The suit felt restrictive compared to his usual attire, limiting his range of motion slightly. The cape seemed like a liability rather an asset, something an enemy could grab during combat, until Alfred demonstrated its rigidity function for gliding. The cowl's eye slits narrowed his peripheral vision, but the built-in enhancement compensated somewhat. "How's it feel?" Barbara asked as Naruto flexed experimentally. "Weird," he admitted, "but I can work with it." Alfred made final adjustments to the utility belt. "Remember, Master Bruce relies heavily on stealth and intimidation. Your more flamboyant abilities should be used sparingly to maintain the illusion." Naruto nodded, though inwardly he questioned the practical ity of limiting his most effective techniques. Shadow clones alone could revolutionize crime fighting in Gotham, allowing him to be in multiple locations simultaneously. Still, he understood the importance of preserving Batman's mystique. "I'll start with a patrol route through the areas Oracle highlighted," he said, pulling the cowl into place. The transformation was immediate, stance shifting, voice lowering instinctively as he embraced the role. "The East End first, then the Diamond District." Barbara looked impressed despite herself. "That's actually a good assessment of priority areas. The comm system in the cowl will keep you connected to me. I'll guide you through the city." Alfred stepped back, surveying the result with critical eyes. "The resemblance is passable from a distance. Keep to the shadows, move with purpose, and most won't notice the difference." Naruto approached the vehicle bay where several options awaited. The flying Batwing he'd arrived in, a sleek armored car, and several motorcycles. "I'll move faster on foot," he decided. "Or rooftop, rather." Barbara's voice held a hint of skepticism. "Gotham's a big city. Even Batman uses vehicles to cover ground." "Trust me," Naruto replied, moving toward the cave exit. "I can manage." The route to the surface took him through a waterfall concealing one of several exits. The sensation of water cascading over the suit reminded him painfully of training with Jiraiya, one of countless memories from a home that now felt impossibly distant. Emerging into Gotham's night air, Naruto took a moment to absorb the cityscape spreading before him. Wayne Manor stood on elevated ground outside the city proper, offering a panoramic view of Gotham's sprawling expanse. Light pollution obscured the stars, creating instead a galaxy of artificial illumination across buildings of varying heights and architectural styles. "Oracle," he spoke into the cowl's communication system. "I'm heading in." "Received," Barbara responded professionally. "GCPD reports armed robbery in progress at Gotham First National. 3 perpetrators, possible metahuman involvement." Naruto gathered chakra to his legs and launched himself forward, covering ground in enormous bounds that would have seemed impossible to anyone watching. The cape billowed behind him, occasionally catching air currents that extended his jumps even further. "What's a metahuman?" he asked, navigating by the mental map he'd studied earlier. "Enhanced individual," Barbara explained. "Powers, abilities, mutations, terminology varies, but it means someone beyond normal human capabilities." "Like me, like you," she confirmed. "Though your power set is unusual even by metahuman standards." Naruto reached the city limits, transitioning smoothly from ground travel to buildings. The structures here were smaller than downtown skyscrapers, allowing him to leap between rooftops with minimal effort. His chakra control compensated for treacherous footing on rain-slick surfaces. "I'm picking up your position on satellites," Barbara noted. "Your speed is impressive. You'll reach the bank in approximately 3 minutes at current pace." The NK in question came into view, a classical stone building with columns flanking its entrance. Police vehicles formed a perimeter, their distinctive blue and red lights painting the surrounding streets in alternating colors. Officers crouched behind car doors, weapons trained on the entrance. Naruto perched on a gargoyle protruding from an adjacent building, assessing the situation. "I count 12 officers, 4 civilian witnesses being interviewed, and no movement from inside the bank." "Correct," Barbara confirmed. "Perpetrators demanded helicopter extraction 20 minutes ago, threatening to execute hostages if demands aren't met. SWAT is en route but still 15 minutes out." "Too long," Naruto decided. "I'm going in." "Wait." Barbara's voice sharpened. "Batman would gather intelligence first. There's a ventilation access on the north side roof that leads to the manager's office. You can observe the main floor from there." Naruto considered this approach. It was more Katyu's than his usual strategy but potentially smarter given his unfamiliarity with this world's weapons and threats. "Fine," he conceded, moving silently across rooftops to the position she indicated. The ventilation shaft was exactly where Barbara had described, its cover secured with screws that yielded easily to tools from the utility belt. Naruto slipped inside, navigating the narrow passage with shinobi stealth until reaching a grate overlooking an office. Through its glass walls, he could observe the bank's main floor. 3 armed individuals held approximately 15 hostages gathered in the center of the marble-floored lobby. 2 wielded what Naruto now recognized as automatic weapons, while the third, a woman with skin that seemed to shimmer metallically in the fluorescent lighting, appeared to be the leader. "I see them," he whispered. 2 with guns, 1 female with some kind of metallic skin. "Alloy," Barbara identified immediately. "Mid-tier metahuman, can transform her skin into various metal compounds. Bulletproof when transformed, enhanced strength, but movement speed decreases with density." Naruto watched as Alloy paced impatiently, occasionally barking orders at her accomplices. The hostages remained terrified but compliant, several showing signs of injury from the initial takeover. "No sign of the helicopter they demanded," he observed. "There won't be one," Barbara replied. "GCPD doesn't negotiate with hostage takers. It's a stalling tactic until SWAT arrives." Naruto frowned beneath the cowl. "So the civilians are just supposed to wait and hope nothing goes wrong. That's your protocol." Quote. Barbara's sigh was audible over the comm. "It's complicated. Look, normally Batman would." "I'm not Batman," Naruto interrupted, decision made. "I'm creating a distraction. Be ready." Without waiting for her response, Naruto formed a shadow clone seal, manifesting 3 copies who nodded in silent communication. Each clone transformed with a puff of smoke. One taking the appearance of a security guard, another becoming a terrified civilian woman, the third transforming into a small child. The real Naruto moved to a position directly above the main floor, waiting as his transformed clones revealed themselves from hiding places around the lobby, creating the impression they'd been overlooked during the initial roundup. "Please don't hurt me," the civilian clone cried, drawing the gunman's attention. "Where did they come from?" one gunman demanded, swinging his weapon toward the new threats. Alloy stepped forward, metal skin glinting. "It doesn't matter. Get them with the others before." Naruto dropped silently from above, landing directly behind her. A precise strike to a pressure point at the base of her skull sent her crumpling forward. Before her enhanced senses could register the threat. As she fell, he launched 2 batarangs, extracted earlier from the utility belt, at the gunman's weapons. The projectile struck with perfect accuracy, jamming the firing mechanisms as Naruto's clones simultaneously tackled both men. The security guard clone disarmed one while the civilian subdued the other. The child clone immediately began guiding actual hostages toward exits. What the one gunman managed before a swift punch rendered him unconscious. The entire takedown lasted less than 10 seconds. None of the hostages had even realized what was happening until they were being ushered to safety. Hostiles neutralized, Naruto reported, cable tying the unconscious criminals with equipment from the utility belt. Hostages secure. Barbarous' voice held a mixture of admiration and exasperation. That was not how Batman would have handled it. But it worked, Naruto countered, already moving toward an exit as Poli CE began cautiously entering the building. No casualties, minimal property damage, criminals contained. I didn't say it was wrong, she clarified. Just different. Your transformation technique is particularly useful. The clones were indistinguishable from actual people on the bank's security feed. Is there a limit to what forms you can take? Naruto grappled to a nearby rooftop, using the EQU. IP meant more for appearance's sake than necessity. Any human form is easy. Animals and objects are harder. Mass differences create complications. Fascinating. That alone gives you infiltration capabilities Batman doesn't have. She paused briefly. Multiple reports coming in from the Bowery. The Penguin's men are moving weapons through the district, potentially related to the power vacuum they perceive with Batman injured. Naruto oriented himself toward the Bowery district, launching across rooftops with chakra-enhanced speed. On my way. These weapons, how dangerous are we talking? Military grade, Barbara replied grimly. Penguin specializes in arms dealing. With these weapons hitting the streets, gang violence will escalate exponentially. The journey to the Bowery took Naruto through progressively deteriorating neighborhoods. Architectural grandeur gave way to crumbling infrastructure, wealth to poverty, orderliness to chaos. Even at night, desperate faces peered from windows and alleyways, reminding him painfully of his own childhood loneliness. This district, he asked as he traveled, why is it so different from the areas I passed through earlier? Barbara's response held restrained anger. Decades of economic abandonment, corruption, institutional neglect. The Bowery has been Gotham's dumping ground for generations. It's also the Penguin's primary territory. Naruto spotted his destination, a warehouse with unusual activity patterns for the late hour. Trucks were being loaded under the supervision of men in expensive suits, surrounded by armed guards. He perched on an adjacent building, observing. I count 22 individuals, he reported. 4 trucks, multiple crates being loaded, armed guards at all access points. Typical Penguin operation, Barbara confirmed. His lieutenant, Ignatius Ogilvy, appears to be overseeing personally. He's the one in the purple suit. Naruto studied the well-dressed man directing the operation. Unlike the others, Ogilvy moved with calculated precision, occasionally consulting a tablet device. His posture and mannerisms screamed, trained fighter, to Naruto's experienced eye. What's the priority here? The weapons, the lieutenant, or both? Ideally both, Barbara answered. But the weapons take precedence. Those crates contain enough firepower to destabilize the entire east side. Naruto considered his options. A direct approach would likely result in firefights that endangered civilians in surrounding buildings. Stealth elimination of individual guards would take too long given the number of targets. He needed something that would neutralize multiple threats simultaneously. I have an idea, he said finally. But it's definitely not something Batman would do. Barbara's sigh was audible. Let me guess. More clones. Something like that. Naruto formed familiar hand seals, focusing his chakra. Shadow clone jutsu. 20 perfect duplicates materialized around him, each wearing the modified batsuit. They arranged themselves in formation, awaiting instructions. Spread out, Naruto commanded quietly. Simultaneous attack on my signal. Priority targets are the guards with weapons. Secondary targets are the truck drivers. Avoid lethal force. The clones dispersed, using shadows and architectural features for concealment as they surrounded the warehouse operation. Naruto himself targeted Ogilvy directly, calculating the precise moment to strike. Oracle, he whispered. Cut power to the block on my mark. That's not. She began, then stopped herself. Fine. Ready when you are. Naruto waited until his clones signaled their positions, then, now. The entire block plunged into darkness. In the momentary confusion, 21 Batman figures descended simultaneously on the operation. Guards found themselves disarmed and unconscious before they could comprehend what was happening. Truck engines stalled as clones removed key components. Crates were rapidly sealed and secured. In the center of the chaos, the real Naruto landed silently behind Ogilvy, who had drawn a concealed weapon and was firing blindly into the darkness. What the hell is happening? The lieutenant shouted, panic evident beneath his cultivated composure. Justice, Naruto growled in his best approximation of Batman's voice, striking precisely at nerve clusters that sent Ogilvy crumpling to the ground. The entire operation was neutralized in under 30 seconds. Naruto's clones gathered the unconscious criminals, arranging them for police retrieval while securing weapons crates. GCPD has been anonymously notified. Barbara informed him, voice containing poorly concealed amazement. They're 3 minutes out. You should leave before they arrive. Naruto dispelled his clones one by one, each disappearing in a puff of smoke after completing its task. The final clone handed him a small device extracted from Ogilvy's pocket, some kind of advanced communication tool. Oracle, I found something you might want to analyze, he said, pocketing the device as he departed the scene. Looks important. Bring it back to the cave, she instructed. And Naruto. That was impressive, unorthodox, but effective. Pride warmed him briefly before reality reasserted itself. It's just shadow clones. Basic technique where I'm from. Maybe, she acknowledged, but imagine what T-Man could have accomplished all these years with that ability. The strategic applications alone. Naruto paused on a rooftop, watching police vehicles converge on the warehouse below. It's not about the technique. It's about how you use it. Spoken like a true Batman, Barbara replied, and Naruto could hear the smile in her voice. The remainder of the night passed in similar fashion, Oracle directing him to crime scenes across Gotham, Naruto adapting his shinobi techniques to urban vigilantism with increasing confidence. By dawn, he had disrupted 3 more major operations, prevented dozens of smaller crimes, and saved 16 lives directly. As morning light began creeping across the city's eastern edge, Barbara finally called him back. You should return to the cave. Even Batman rests occasionally. Naruto realized suddenly how long he'd been active. Nearly 24 hours straight between the battle with Kaguya, his dimensional arrival, and his first Gotham patrol. Even with his enhanced stamina, exhaustion tugged at his consciousness. On my way, he agreed, orienting himself toward Wayne Manor's distant silhouette. The return journey passed in contemplative silence. Gotham in daylight revealed itself as a study in contrasts, architectural beauty alongside urban decay, extreme wealth bordering desperate poverty, technological advancement shadowing human suffering. In some ways, it reminded him of the disparities between hidden villages, but concentrated and magnified beyond anything in the shinobi world. Alfred awaited his return at the cave entrance, Expri. Seijin betraying nothing of his thoughts as Naruto removed the cowl. I trust your evening was productive, the butler remarked, accepting the costume components as Naruto shed them. 17 arrests, 4 major operations disrupted. Multiple lives saved, Barbara reported from the main computer. All without killing or excessive force, though several perpetrators will require significant dental work. Alfred's eyebrow rose slightly, most impressive for a first patrol. Naruto rolled his shoulders, working out stiffness from the restrictive suit. The criminals here aren't very challenging compared to what I'm used to. Most rely too heavily on their weapons. Perhaps, Alfred conceded, but Gotham's true dangers aren't common thugs. The Rogues Gallery, as they're called, present reeks of an entirely different magnitude. Bruce Wayne's voice joined the conversation from the medical area where he lay monitoring operations. You got lucky. None of the heavy hitters were active tonight. Naruto approached the injured man, noting the medical equipment still monitoring his condition. Your Joker, Two-Face, Riddler, they're the real threats, right? Wayne's piercing gaze studied him with uncomfortable intensity. Among others, each presents unique challenges that raw power can't always overcome. I've reviewed the footage from your patrol, Barbara added, transferring images to larger displays. Your abilities are impressive, but your approach needs refinement. You're thinking like a soldier, not a detective. Wayne nodded agreement. Batman's greatest weapon isn't strength or speed. It's information. Anticipating threats before they materialize. Understanding motivations. Finding patterns others miss. Naruto frowned, recognizing the validity of their critique. Throughout the night, Oracle had provided most of the intelligence that guided his actions. In his world, missions typically came with objectives determined by others. Batman, it seemed, identified his own missions through investigation and deduction. I can learn, he said finally. If I'm going to help protect Gotham until you recover or until I find a way home, I need to understand how this world works. Wayne's expression softened marginally. You did well for a first night. Better than expected. But Gotham will test you in ways your world never did. Master Bruce speaks from experience, Alfred interjected, setting a tray of food beside Naruto. Perhaps after you've rested, a more comprehensive training regimen can be established. Naruto accepted the meal gratefully, realizing how hungry the night's exertions had left him. So what happens now? Wayne and Barbara exchanged a look laden with unspoken communication. It was Wayne who finally answered. Now, Naruto Uzumaki, you learn what it truly means to be Gotham's guardian. And may whatever gods exist in your world have mercy on you for it. As dawn fully illuminated the cave entrance, bats returned to their daytime roosts. Their wings creating whispered echoes through the vast space. Naruto watched their synchronized movement, these creatures that had inspired Batman's persona, and wondered what his friends in Konoha would think of his strange new role in this alien world. Protector of a city he barely understood. Successor to a legacy not his own. Stranger in a reality that operated by unfamiliar rules. Yet somehow, beneath the differences, the core remained familiar, the will to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The determination to stand against darkness no matter the personal cost. The ninja way, expressed through a different symbol. For now, at least, that would have to be enough. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Shadow and Light. Again, Naruto picked himself up from the training mat for the 5th time in as many minutes. Wincing as his body protested, Bruce Wayne sat in a specialized wheelchair at the edge of the platform, expression impassive as he observed every movement with analytical precision. Your technique relies too heavily on overwhelming force, Bruce critiqued, fingers steepled beneath his chin. Batman can't afford to be seen throwing opponents through walls or jumping 30 feet into the air. The mystique depends on seeming human but exceptional. 3 days had passed since Naruto's arrival in Gotham. 3 days of intensive training interspersed with nightly patrols. 3 days of adjusting to a world where his most basic techniques drew shocked stares and scientific curiosity. I understand the theory, Naruto replied, rolling his shoulders to work out the stiffness. But fighting at reduced capacity feels unnatural. In my world, we use every advantage available. Bruce's eyes narrowed slightly. This isn't your world. Here, restraint is often more powerful than raw strength. Try again. Alfred appeared at the edge of the training area carrying a tray with water and protein supplements. The elderly butler had maintained a careful neutrality toward Naruto, neither fully accepting nor rejecting his presence in Wayne Manor. Perhaps Master Uzumaki would benefit from a demonstration, Alfred suggested, setting the tray down. The combat simulator could provide appropriate context. Bruce considered this before nodding once. Activate training scenario Echo 7. Standard parameters, 50% speed. The cave's lighting shift, as holographic projectors hummed to life. Suddenly, the training platform transformed into a simulated Gotham alleyway, complete with atmospheric effects, light rain, steam rising from vents, distant police sirens. The computer will generate 5 hostile combatants with varying threat levels, Bruce explained as Alfred helped him adjust his position for better observation. Disable them all without using techniques that would appear superhuman to witnesses. Naruto took a deep breath, centering himself as simulated figures materialized around him, street thugs of varying sizes, each armed differently. The challenge wasn't their fighting ability, which he could handle blindfolded, but the self-imposed limitations on his response. The first attacker lunged with a knife, movement slowed to half speed as Bruce had specified. Instead of his instinctive counter, A chakra-enhanced strike that would send the assailant flying. Naruto sidestepped minimally, redirecting the knife hand while simultaneously striking a pressure point at the elbow. The simulated attacker dropped, knife clattering harmlessly away. Two more converged from opposite sides, one swinging a chain, the other a baseball bat. Naruto dropped low, sweeping the legs of the chain wielder while catching the descending bat with a precise block. A quick pivot transformed his defensive position into leverage against the second attacker, using the man's own momentum to send him crashing into the third. The fourth pulled a gun, a weapon Naruto was still adjusting to as a combat variable. Rather than using superhuman speed to close the distance, he employed a batarang from his modified utility belt, striking the weapon with just enough force to knock it off target. The split-second distraction allowed him to close distance conventionally, disarming and disabling the gunman with efficiency Bruce might approve of. The fifth and final opponent, larger than the others and wearing rudimentary body armor, represented a more sophisticated threat. This one moved with trained precision rather than street fighting instincts. Naruto recognized the challenge. This opponent required technical skill rather than power. Their exchange lasted longer, a methodical dismantling of the larger opponent's defenses through Batman's combat techniques rather than shinobi abilities. Naruto found rhythm in the restricted movement, a different kind of flow than his usual fighting style. When the final simulated attacker fell, he realized he was smiling despite himself. The holographic environment dissolved, returning the platform to its original state. Bruce's expression remained neutral, but Naruto detected a slight relaxation around his eyes. Better, Wayne conceded. Your adaptation rate is impressive. Most take weeks to internalize these techniques. Master Bruce has always excelled at understatement, Alfred commented dryly. What he means is that your progress is extraordinary, even by the standards of those who've worn the cowl. Naruto accepted a water bottle from the tray, considering the complexity of what he was attempting. Batman's fighting style was fundamentally different from shinobi combat, less overwhelming force and more about precise application of leverage, psychology, and tactical advantage. Yet certain principles transferred surprisingly well. It's like advanced chakra control, he explained. Searching for comparisons Bruce might understand. When medical ninja heal, they can't just pour chakra randomly into a patient. They have to apply exactly the right amount with perfect precision. This feels similar, finding the minimum necessary force for maximum effect. Bruce nodded slightly. An apt comparison. Batman's methods evolved from necessity. When you can't overpower every threat, you learn efficiency. And theatricality, added Barbara Gordon, entering the training area. She navigated her wheelchair with practiced ease, tablet computer balanced on her lap. The psychological component is just as important as the physical one. 3 days had also transformed Barbara from suspicious observer to cautious ally. After witnessing Naruto's actions during his first trial and reviewing his subsequent performance, her initial skepticism had given way to professional respect. Not quite friendship yet, but a foundation for it. Any update from Dr. Langstrom? Bruce asked her, shifting the conversation. Barbara's expression tightened slightly. He's reviewing your case, but his preliminary assessment matches Drive Tompkins. The spinal damage is extensive. Alfred's composure flickered briefly, revealing the depth of concern beneath his professional demeanor. Surely with modern medical technology. It's not about technology, Barbara interrupted gently. It's about cumulative trauma. Bruce's body has endured decades of punishment. These new injuries compound previous damage that never fully healed. Naruto listened silently, uncomfortable witnessing such a private discussion yet unable to excuse himself without drawing attention. In Konoha, medical ninjutsu could heal injuries that appeared miraculous to civilians. Here, despite advanced technology, human bodies remained frustratingly fragile. What about STAR labs? Bruce pressed, voice betraying no emotion despite discussing his own prognosis. Their regenerative research is experimental and years from clinical application, Barbara finished, setting her tablet down. Bruce, we need to consider the possibility that Batman's direct field operations may be permanently. A sudden alarm interrupted her. Red lights flashing across cave monitors. Barbara immediately wheeled to the computer array, fingers flying across multiple keyboards. Energy spike in downtown Gotham. Match S the signature from when Naruto arrived. Naruto straightened immediately. Another dimensional rift, similar pattern but smaller magnitude, Barbara confirmed, enhancing satellite imagery. Centered on the Coventry district, specifically Robinson Park. Bruce's expression hardened. Poison Ivy's territory. Who? Naruto asked, already moving to suit up. Dr. Pamela Isley, Barbara explained. Transferring data to the cowl's heads-up display. Metahuman with plant manipulation abilities and biochemical expertise. Extremely dangerous, especially in green spaces she controls. Alfred A. assisted Naruto with the modified batsuit, now further customized to accommodate his fighting style. The cape had been shortened slightly to reduce interference with his movements, while the cowl had been adjusted for better peripheral vision. Most significantly, the utility belt now contains specialized equipment designed specifically for Naruto's abilities. If there's another dimensional traveler, Naruto said as he secured the final components, they'll be disoriented, possibly combative. I should approach alone first. Bruce wheeled forward, expression grim. This could also be a trap. Timing of these rifts seems increasingly suspicious. Someone's engineering them, Barbara agreed. The pattern doesn't match natural dimensional phenomena according to Justice League records. Naruto pulled the cowl into place, completing his transformation into Gotham's temporary guardian. After 3 nights, the role felt less alien, though still not entirely natural. I'll investigate and report back before engaging, he promised, moving toward the vehicle bay where the Batcycle waited. Unlike the Batmobile, the motorcycle suited his preference for maneuverability over armored protection. Take this, Bruce said, extending a small device. Justice League communicator. If the situation exceeds containment parameters, use it. Zatanna Zatara is on standby for mystical threats. Naruto accepted the device, securing it to his belt. Zatanna, the magician, right? Sorceress, Barbara corrected, and a founding member of the Justice League Dark. If anyone understands dimensional anomalies, it's her. With a final nod to his impromptu support team, Naruto mounted the Batcycle and accelerated through the cave's tunnel system. 3 days of practice had transformed initial awkwardness with Gotham's vehicles into comfortable proficiency. The motorcycle responded to his movements like an extension of himself, powerful engine carrying him toward the city at speeds that would have impressed even Guy-sensei. Oracle Online. Barbara's voice came through the cowl's communication system, using her operational designation rather than her name. Satellite tracking shows the N.R.G signature stabilizing rather than dissipating. Whatever came through, it's maintaining coherence. Acknowledged, Naruto replied, navigating through decreasing traffic as he approached Gotham proper. Any civilian witnesses? Social media's lighting up with reports of strange lights in Robinson Park. GCPD is establishing a perimeter but holding back from direct engagement given Ivy's history. Naruto frowned beneath the cowl. This Poison Ivy, what's her likely response to an incursion in her territory? Violently territorial, Barbara assessed. Especially if the dimensional energy affects her plants. Approach with extreme caution. Her toxins can affect even metahumans. The journey to Robinson Park took Naruto through Gotham's varied districts, each with distinct architecture and population. He'd spent hours studying city maps and criminal territory distributions, but experiencing the urban landscape directly provided context no briefing could convey. The park itself paired as an incongruous oasis amid urban development, nearly 2 square miles of carefully maintained wilderness surrounded by skyscrapers and apartment complexes. As Naruto approached the police barricade, he could see unusual botanical activity even from a distance, trees swaying despite the absence of wind, flowering vines growing visibly along pathways. Commissioner Gordon, Barbara's father, He remained unaware of Naruto's knowledge of this connection, directed operations from the perimeter. His reaction to Batman's arrival was a mixture of relief and suspicion. You're looking different, Gordon noted as Naruto approached, eyes narrowing beneath bushy eyebrows. New suit, tactical modification, Naruto replied in the gruff voice he'd practiced extensively. Bruce had emphasized the importance of maintaining consistent speech patterns when in costume. Gordon seemed unconvinced but continued his briefing. Strange energy readings about half a mile in, near the botanical gardens. Ivy's plants are going crazy, growing 3 times their normal rate and displaying unusual bioluminescence. We've evacuated civilians from the immediate area. Naruto nodded, scanning the tree line. Any visual on Ivy herself? Nothing yet, Gordon confirmed, but it's her pattern to observe before revealing herself. We're maintaining distance per standard protocol. I'll handle it, Naruto assured him. Moving past the barricade toward the park interior. Gordon called after him. Be careful in there. My officers reported the plants seem agitated. More so than usual. Once beyond police observation, Naruto increased his pace, using the trees for cover as he approached the energy signature's coordinates. Barbara continued providing updates through the Cowl's communication system. I'm registering elevated levels of oxygen and unidentified spores in your vicinity, she warned. Environmental suit protocols activated. The Cowl's filtration system should protect you, but don't take any chances. Naruto acknowledged the warning while focusing on his surroundings. The deeper he moved into the park, the more obvious the botanical anomalies became. Flowers bloomed and withered in rapid cycles. Tree branches reached toward him with unsettling deliberation. The ground itself seemed to pulse with unnatural vitality. I'm detecting a familiar energy signature, he reported, recognizing the distinctive resonance of chakra. Definitely similar to what brought me here. As he approached the botanical gardens, an elaborate Victorian glasshouse at the park's center, the concentration of energy intensified dramatically. Plants twisted themselves into defensive formations, creating barriers across pathways. Vines writhed with serpentine intelligence, tracking his movements. Someone's here, Naruto murmured, sensing a presence ahead. 2 distinct signatures, one human with metahuman characteristics, one, similar to my energy pattern. Proceed with caution, Bruce's voice joined the communication. His tone tense. If Ivy has made contact with another dimensional traveler, the situation could be volatile. The botanical garden's main structure loomed ahead, its glass panels glowing with an ethereal blue-green light from within. Massive flowering vines had enveloped much of the exterior, pulsing in rhythmic patterns that suggested conscious control. As Naruto approached, the vegetation parted like a curtain, not retreating in fear, but inviting entry. I think I'm being welcomed in, he noted, pausing at the threshold. It's a trap, Bruce responded immediately. Almost certainly, Barbara agreed, but we need information on the dimensional traveler. Naruto weighed his options before stepping through the vegetation doorway. I can handle myself. Proceeding inside, the interior of the botanical garden had transformed into something from an alien world. Plants of impossible configurations stretched toward the glass ceiling, many bearing luminescent flowers that provided ambient lighting. The air itself felt alive with microscopic spores that swirled in deliberate patterns, visible even through the Cowl's specialized lenses. At the center of this transformed ecosystem, 2 figures waited on a raised platform of intertwined roots. The first, presumably Poison Ivy, matched Barbara's briefing descriptions perfectly, a woman of art. HLY beauty with skin bearing a subtle green undertone, flaming red hair intertwined with living vines, and eyes that glowed with chlorophyll luminescence. She wore what appeared to be living vegetatio, N-shaped into form-fitting attire that shifted subtly with her movements. The second figure caused Naruto to freeze in momentary shock. Though different in appearance from his world, dressed in elaborate robes embroidered with mystical symbols rather than shinobi attire, the distinctive silver hair and masked lower face were unmistakable. Kakashi-sensei, he whispered incredulously, forgetting momentarily to maintain Batman's voice. The silver-haired man's visible eye widened in recognition, but before he could respond, Ivy stepped forward, plants rippling around her in protective formation. The infamous Batman, she purred, voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate with the surrounding vegetation. How interesting that you'd respond personally to our little, interdimensional incident. Naruto recovered his composure, advancing cautiously while maintaining situational awareness. The plants around him had shifted from welcoming to wary, responding to Ivy's emotional state. Dr. Isley, he acknowledged formally, using the information Barbara had provided. I see you've met a visitor from another reality. Ivy's laugh carried musical undertones that caused nearby flowers to bloom instantaneously. Met him. I've learned more about alternate botanical evolutionary paths in an hour than I've discovered in years of research. Hataki here comes from a world where plants see Hanal energy in ways this realm has barely imagined. The man, confirming his identity as some version of Kakashi Hataki, stepped forward with the casual grace Naruto remembered from his sensei. Kakashi appeared slightly older than the one he knew, with different scarring visible above his mask and a gravity in his bearing that spoke of additional burdens. You're not the Batman I encountered previously, Kakashi observed calmly, his analytical gaze assessing Naruto with uncomfortable precision. But you're familiar somehow. Have we met in your reality? Naruto hesitated, uncertain how to proceed. If this truly was Kakashi from his world, revealing his identity could provide crucial alliance in this alien reality. If not, if this was some variant from a parallel timeline, revealing too much could complicate an already precarious situation. Oracle, he sub-vocalized, utilizing the cowl's sensitive internal microphone. The dimensional traveler appears to be Kakashi Hataki, my former teacher. Requesting guidance on identity disclosure. Barbarous response came immediately. Zatanna is en route. Maintain cover until she can verify interdimensional integrity. Unknown variables could be manipulating the situation. I'm investigating the dimensional anomalies, Naruto responded to Kakashi, maintaining Batman's gruff intonation. What brought you to this world, Hataki? Kaka. She's eye crinkled in what might have been amusement. Direct, aren't you? I was tracking an interdimensional disturbance related to a former student's disappearance. The trail led here, specifically the unusual chakra patterns in these plants. Ivy smiled, trailing fingers along a nearby vine that curled affectionately around her wrist. Your chakra resonates beautifully with my children. I have never been so responsive to external energy manipulation. The dimensional stability is concerning, Kakashi continued, expression sobering. These rifts shouldn't be forming spontaneously. So, Mething, or someone, is deliberately weakening the barriers between realities. A new voice joined the conversation from behind Naruto. He's right about that. Naruto turned sharply, instincts flaring at being caught unaware. A woman stood at the entrance he'd used minutes before. Tall, imposing, dressed in an elaborate costume combining elements of stage magician attire with practical combat modifications. Dark hair framed striking features, while eyes that had witnessed countless mystical phenomena regarded the gathering with calculated interest. Zatanna Zatara, the woman introduced herself, stepping forward with confidence that suggested tremendous power held in careful reserve. Justice League. And he's correct. These dimensional breaches are being engineered. The magical signature is unmistakable. Another newcomer to my garden, Ivy observed, plants tensing defensively around her. The League must be truly concerned to send both their detective and their sorceress. Zatanna ignored her, focusing instead on Kakashi. With a gesture and backwards spoken words, Laver Yurta mystical energy briefly enveloped the silver-haired shinobi. Interesting, she murmured as the energy dissipated. You're genuinely from another reality, but not the same one as our other visitor. Her gaze shifted to Naruto, penetrating the cowl with mystical perception. You, however, are exactly who I expected to find. Naruto tensed, prepared for potential exposure, but Zatanna merely smiled slightly before addressing the gathering. We should continue this discussion somewhere more secure. These dimensional breaches are leaving residual tears in local reality, tears that others might exploit. My garden stays protected, Ivy declared firmly, plants rising around her in response to perceived threat. I've only just begun studying the energy patterns this visitor brings. The implications for botanical evolution are revolutionary. Zatanna sighed, clearly accustomed to such negotiations. Dr. Isley, I understand your scientific interest, but these dimensional incursions threaten ecological stability across multiple realities. Surely that concerns you. The ecological argument visibly impacted Ivy, her expression shifting from defiance to consideration. After a moment, she nodded reluctantly. My children will allow your departure, but I expect to be included in further investigation. If interdimensional collapse threatens plant life across realities, I have both interest and expertise to contribute. Agreed, Zatanna conceded, turning to Kakashi. Mr. Hataki, will you accompany us voluntarily? Your perspective could prove valuable. Kakashi studied her briefly before nodding. My mission aligns with your investigation. Cooperation seems logical. His gaze shifted to Naruto, a hint of curiosity evident in his visible eye. Besides, I'm interested in learning more about this world's defenders. Zatanna gestured for them to follow, speaking into a communication device similar to what Bruce had given Naruto. Constantine, prepare the House of Mystery for visitors. We have multiple dimensional travelers requiring secure debriefing. As they exited the botanical garden, Ivy's plants withdrew, creating a clear path while maintaining vigilant observation. Naruto found himself walking beside Kakashi, hyper-aware of the surreal nature of the situation, accompanying an alternate version of his sensei while disguised as Batman. Your movement patterns are shinobi trained, Kakashi observed quietly, pitching his voice for Naruto's ears alone. Not from this world originally, are you? Before Naruto could formulate a response, Zatanna interrupted. Save the interrogation, Hitaki. Dimensional travelers often recognize patterns across realities without understanding why. It's a phenomenon called quantum resonance, souls that shared connections in one reality instinctively recognizing each other in another. Her explanation, while scientifically phrased, carried a subtle warning to Naruto. Maintain your cover. He nodded appreciatively, respecting her discretion while wondering how much she discerned about his true identity. They reached the park perimeter where Commissioner Gordon awaited updates. The police commissioner's eyebrows rose at the unusual procession. Batman, followed by a masked silver-haired man and the renowned Justice League sorceress. Situation contained, Gordon asked gruffly, eyes lingering on Kakashi with professional suspicion. Under control, Zatanna assured him. League matter now, Commissioner. We'll handle the debriefing. Gordon's expression suggested he had additional questions, but years of experience with superhero protocols kept him from voicing them. He simply nodded, signaling his officers to maintain the perimeter while allowing their departure. Instead of returning to the Batcycle, Naruto found himself directed toward an unusual structure that definitely hadn't been present when he arrived. A Victorian townhouse incongruously situated at the park's edge, surrounded by a faint golden aura visible even to normal perception. The House of Mystery, Zatanna explained, noting his confusion. Magical transportation hub and secure meeting location. Constantine is its current caretaker. Constantine, Naruto questioned, following her up stone steps that seemed to simultaneously belong and not belong in their surroundings. John Constantine, she clarified, pushing open elaborate wooden doors that swung inward without apparent mechanical assistance. British warlock, occasional ally, permanent pain in the ass. Try not to mention demons around him, it's a sore subject. The interior defied conventional architectural principles, stretching into impossible dimensions that shifted subtly as they moved deeper inside. Bookshelves reached toward ceilings that receded from observation, while corridors branched in directions that couldn't physically connect given the building's external dimensions. In a study containing an eclectic mixture of arcane artifacts and surprisingly mundane furniture, a disheveled blond man in a rumpled trenchcoat awaited them. A lit cigarette dangled from his lips despite prominent, no smoking, signs adorning nearby walls. Brought me some dimensional tourists, love. The man drawled in a thick British accent, eyes sharp despite his casual demeanor. Interesting fashion choices. These two. The bat fetish I've seen before, but the surgical mask is new. John, Zatanna acknowledged with strained patience. This is Kakashi Hitaki, recently arrived from an adjacent reality. And you know Batman. Constantine snorted, extinguishing his cigarette in a teacup that quietly protested the treatment. That's not the Bat I know. Different energy signature entirely. His gaze fixed on Naruto with uncomfortable intensity. Got yourself a replacement, have you? Younger model with some interdimensional mojo of his own, unless I miss my guess. Your discretion would be appreciated. Zatanna interjected before Naruto could respond. We're here to discuss the dimensional breaches, not Batman's operational decisions. Constantine shrugged, gesturing toward comfortable seating arrangements that Naruto could have sworn weren't present moments before. Right then, mysterious rifts in the fabric of reality. My favorite topic after breakfast. As they settled into chairs that adjusted themselves to each occupant's preferences, Naruto observed the dynamic between Zatanna and Constantine, familiarity tinged with exasperation, suggesting a complicated history. Kakashi remained alert but outwardly relaxed, adapting to the bizarre circumstances with characteristic composure. I've been tracking these dimensional anomalies for weeks, Zatanna began. Mystical energy materializing between her hands to form a three-dimensional map of glowing points across Gotham. They started as minor fluctuations, barely detectable even with advanced thaumaturgical instruments. But they've been increasing in frequency and intensity. Constantine leaned forward, studying the pattern. Deliberate sequencing. Someone's systematically testing boundary points between realities. That's my assessment as well, Kakashi agreed, surprising the others with his immediate comprehension. In my world, similar techniques were developed during the Fourth Great Ninja War for battlefield transportation. But this scale suggests something far more ambitious. Naruto listened intently, recognizing elements that corresponded with his own arrival experience. Energy signature when the first traveler arrived was significantly larger than subsequent breaches. Zatanna nodded. The initial breach created a template. Each subsequent incursion requires less energy because the interdimensional barriers are already weakened along established pathways. Like a dam with spreading cracks, Constantine added grimly. First breach takes tremendous pressure. But once the structure's compromised, even minor forces can widen existing fissures. The question remains, Kakashi interjected, who benefits from weakening these barriers? In my experience, interdimensional manipulation requires specific objectives beyond mere chaos. The question hung in the air as the magical map rotated slowly between them. Naruto found himself studying the pattern with growing concern, recognizing a methodical approach that suggested strategic planning rather than random experimentation. Oracle, he sub-vocalized into the Cowl's communication system, are you receiving this? Every word, Barbara confirmed. Bruce is analyzing the pattern against known criminal methodologies. The precision suggests resources beyond typical rogues gallery capabilities. Zatanna rose suddenly, hands tracing complex patterns that expanded the mystical map to encompass dimensional layers rather than mere physical locations. The breaches aren't random, they're targeting specific vibrational frequencies. Each corresponds to a distinct reality with unique metaphysical properties. They're shopping, Constantine concluded, expression darkening. Looking for something specific across multiple realities. Or someone, Kakashi suggested quietly, his gaze shifting briefly to Naruto. The implication sent a chill through Naruto's spine. Could his arrival have been deliberately engineered rather than accidental? The timing of his dimensional displacement had seemed random, a chaotic consequence of battle energy, but viewed through this new lens, patterns emerged that suggested purpose. We need to determine what connects these specific realities, Zatanna continued, unaware of Naruto's internal revelation. Each universe vibrates at a unique frequency, but ETING systems would require commonalities to establish viable bridges. Constantine pulled a battered leather journal from his trenchcoat, flipping through pages covered in arcane symbols. I've got contacts in the dimensional borderlands who might have noticed unusual traffic. Give me 48 hours to put out feelers. Mr. Hatake, Zatanna turned to Kakashi, what specific tracking method led you to our reality? Kakashi considered his response carefully. In my world, individuals develop unique chakra signatures, energy patterns as distinctive as fingerprints. I was following Trace's OFA specific signature that disappeared from our reality approximately 1 week ago. Naruto tensed imperceptibly. 1 week in Kakashi's timeline corresponded roughly with his own displacement, a coup. NTING for potential temporal differences between dimensions. This missing person, Zatanna pressed, what makes them significant enough to pursue across dimensional boundaries? He possesses unique abilities, Kakashi replied, his visible eye briefly meeting Naruto's cowled gaze. Abilities that, in the wrong hands, could destabilize power balances across multiple worlds. The conversation continued, delving into technical aspects of dimensional theory that blended magical terminology with scientific principles. Naruto contributed where possible, carefully filtering his responses through Batman's established knowledge base rather than revealing shinobi-specific information. Throughout the discussion, he remained acutely aware of Kakashi's subtle observation. This version of his sense whether from his exact timeline or an adjacent one, clearly suspected something about Batman's current identity. The question was whether revealing himself would provide strategic advantage or unnecessary complication. After nearly 2 hours of information exchange, Zatanna concluded the initial meeting. Constantine will investigate his contacts. I'll consult with Dr. Fate regarding dimensional stability. Batman, I assume you'll continue monitoring Gotham for additional breaches. Naruto nodded, rising from his seat. Oracle has established detection protocols based on energy signatures from previous incidents. And you, Mr. Hitaki? Zatanna inquired. The House of Mystery can provide accommodation suited to your needs while we investigate. Kakashi stood with fluid grace. I appreciate the offer, but I prefer mobility while investigating. Perhaps Batman could recommend appropriate lodging in Gotham. My search might benefit from local knowledge. The request placed Naruto in an awkward position, maintaining Batman's cover while accommodating someone who might recognize his true identity at any moment. Before he could formulate a response, Oracle's voice came through the cowl's communication system. Bring him to the manor, Barbara suggested. If he's genuinely from a reality connected to yours, his insights could prove valuable. Bruce agrees, with appropriate security protocols. You can stay at my base of operations, Naruto informed Kakashi, maintaining Batman's gruff intonation. Under supervised conditions, Constantine snorted softly, trusting sort, isn't he? The original bat was exactly the same, warm and fuzzy as a cactus. John, Zatanna warned, though a slight smile belied her stern tone. They exited the House of Mystery, emerging not in Robin Sun Park but directly outside Wayne Manor, a demonstration of the building's spatial manipulation capabilities that left even Naruto momentarily disoriented. Convenient transportation, Kakashi remarked mildly, apparently unfazed by the instantaneous relocation. Though the dimensional shifting leaves a distinct aftertaste of chakra displacement. Zatanna nodded appreciatively at his observation. Most people don't notice the energetic residue. Your sensitivity suggests significant experience with similar phenomena. In my line of work, noticing details others miss is often the difference between life and death. Kakashi replied, his visible eye crinkling slightly in what might have been a smile beneath his mask. After Zatanna departed, vanishing in an elaborate swirl of mystical energy. Why that seemed partially performative, Naruto led Kakashi toward the manor's main entrance. Alfred awaited them, impeccable as always despite the unusual circumstances. I see we have a guest, the butler observed, bowing slightly in formal greeting. Alfred Pennyworth, at your service, sir. Kakashi Hitaki, the silver-haired shinobi replied, returning the bow with equal formality. I appreciate your hospitality under unusual circumstances. Unusual circumstances are our specialty, Mr. Hitaki, Alfred assured him, gesturing for them to enter. If you'll follow me, accommodations have been prepared. I imagine interdimensional travel builds quite an appetite. As they moved through the manor's grand entryway, Naruto removed Batman's cowl, decision made. If this Kakashi was from his world, or close enough to recognize him, continuing the pretense would only complicate matters. If not, revealing himself provided no strategic disadvantage given Kakashi's already demonstrated awareness of dimensional travelers. I thought I recognized your chakra pattern, Kakashi remarked conversationally as the cowl came off, revealing Naruto's distinctive blonde hair and facial markings. Though you're older than the student I remember. Interdimensional displacement often involves temporal variables as well as spatial ones. You know who I am? Naruto questioned, studying his sensei's reaction carefully. Naruto Uzumaki, Kakashi confirmed, his visible eye reflecting complex emotions. Though whether you're precisely the one I've been tracking remains unclear. The multiverse contains finite variations of individuals we recognize. Their conversation paused as Alfred guided them into a secure elevator leading to the Batcave. The butler maintained professional detachment, though High's subtle observational skills missed nothing of their exchange. Master Bruce awaits you below, Alfred informed them as the elevator descended. I shall bring refreshments shortly. Mr. Hitaki, do you have any dietary preferences or restrictions? Nothing spicy, Kakashi replied automatically, the response so characteristic of Naruto's memory that it nearly prompted emotional reaction. Otherwise, I'm not particular. The elevator opened directly into the Batcave's main operational area, where Bruce Wayne awaited them in his specialized wheelchair. Barbara Gordon worked at the computer array nearby, multiple screens displaying analytical data from their recent dimensional discussions. Mr. Hitaki, Bruce greeted them, eyes immediately assessing the newcomer with practiced precision. Welcome to the Batcave. Kakashi surveyed the elaborate underground facility with professional appreciation. Impressive operation. Your technological development exceeds my world's in many aspects. Though we compensate with energy manipulation techniques, your reality hasn't developed. Chakra, Bruce stated rather than asked. Naruto has demonstrated several applications. I'm curious how your implementation differs. The directness seemed to amuse Kakashi. Straight to information gathering. You remind me of certain Anbu commanders from my world. He turned to Naruto, expression sobering. Before we continue, when did you arrive in this reality, and what were the circumstances? Naruto explained his dimensional displacement during the battle with Kagaya, describing the sensations and experiences in detail. As he spoke, Barbara ran analysis programs comparing his account with data collected during subsequent dimensional breaches. The energy signature from your arrival was significantly larger, she noted, highlighting comparative readings on a nearby display. Nearly 15 times the magnitude of Mr. Hitaki's transition. Initial breach versus established pathway, Kakashi suggested. Echoing Constantine's earlier assessment, the question remains, was Naruto's arrival targeted or incidental? And why specifically him? Bruce's expression darkened slightly. You mention, he possesses unique abilities that could destabilize power balances. Elaborate. Kakashi glanced at Naruto, seemingly measuring how much to reveal. In our world, Naruto contains a sealed entity of immense power, a tailed beast called the Nine Tails, or Kurama. This symbiotic relationship grants him energy reserves and regenerative capabilities far beyond normal shinobi. I've witnessed the accelerated healing, Bruce confirmed. But interdimensional targeting would require advanced knowledge of his capabilities. How widely known is this information in your world? More widely than we'd prefer, Kakashi admitted. The Fourth Great Ninja War brought many secrets into the open. Naruto's abilities became particularly visible when he distributed the Nine Tails chakra to thousands of allied shinobi simultaneously. Naruto had remained uncharacteristically quiet during this exchange, contemplating implications. When I arrived here, my connection to Kurama felt muted, like something was interfering with our communication. Could the dimensional transition have affected our link? Possibly, Kakashi considered, though in my experience, tailed beasts exist partially outside conventional dimensional constraints. Their chakra operates on principles that transcend standard physical limitations. Barbara turned from her console, expression thoughtful. When you first arrived, our sensors detected unusual energy fluctuations within your biological signature. They've stabilized since then, but the pattern suggested some kind of internal recalibration. Have you attempted direct communication with the Nine Tails since arriving? Kakashi asked. Naruto nodded. Multiple times. I can sense his presence, but it's like trying to talk through thick glass. I get impressions rather than clear communication. Dimensional interference affecting interdependent consciousness, Bruce theorized, fingers steepled in characteristic contemplation. The question is whether this was an anticipated outcome by whoever engineered these breaches. Alfred arrived with refreshments, the elevator's quiet hum announcing his return. The butler distributed tea and sandwiches with practiced efficiency before addressing Bruce directly. Dr. Tompkins called while you were engaged. She's reviewed the latest test results and wishes to discuss treatment options at your earliest convenience. Bruce acknowledged this with a slight nod, though tension briefly tightened his jaw. Thank you, Alfred. We'll continue this discussion while I take that call. He wheeled toward a private communication area, leaving the others to continue their analysis. Once Bruce was out of earshot, Kakashi turned to Naruto directly. Now that we have a moment, how exactly did you end up replacing Batman? Last I checked, stealth wasn't your defining characteristic. The question, delivered with Kakashi's characteristic dry humor, prompted a genuine smile from Naruto. Definitely not my first choice. I arrived during an attack that left him seriously injured. Ended up helping by instinct, and then, it just happened. You always did have a talent for finding yourself in improbable situations, Kakashi observed. Visible eye crinkling with what might have been affection. Though I must admit, the bat costume is an unexpected career development. Barbara watched their interaction with analytical interest. You two obviously share history, but dimensional variations mean we shouldn't assume identical backgrounds. In your reality, Mr. Hatake, what was your relationship with Naruto? I was his Jonin instructor, Kakashi explained, accepting tea with a polite nod to Alfred. Part of his developmental team from age 12 through various promotions. Similar to a specialized military unit commander in your terminology. And in your timeline, she continued, directing her attention to Naruto, does this match your experience? Naruto nodded, memories surfacing of Team 7's early days, so distant now they seemed almost like someone else's life. Kakashi-sensei led Team 7 after we graduated from the academy. Me, Sasuke Uchiha, and Sakura Haruno. Sasuke Uchiha, Kakashi repeated, expression sharpening with sudden intensity. What was his status when you were displaced? The question carried weight beyond simple curiosity. Naruto studied his sensei carefully, noting subtle tension in his posture. Fighting alongside me against Kagaya. We were combining our abilities when the dimensional rift formed. Relief visibly passed through Kakashi, though he masked it quickly. Interesting. In my timeline, events progressed somewhat differently. Sasuke's choices created complications. The cryptic response raised questions Naruto burned to ask, but Barbara interrupted before he could pursue the subject. Energy spike in the Diamond District, she announced, attention snapping to surveillance monitors. Pattern matching previous breaches but with unusual harmonic variations. Alfred moved immediately to assist Naruto with redonning the batsuit. It seems your respite will be brief, Master Naruto. I'm coming with you, Kakashi stated rather than requested, already moving toward the equipment area. Two shinobi perspectives may prove valuable, particularly if this breach relates to our world specifically. Bruce returned from his private communication, expression grave but focused. Barbara, contact Zatanna, have her meet them at the breach site. Full containment protocols. Naruto secured the cowl in place, once again assuming Batman's persona. What about your Justice League communicator? Should I activate it? Not yet, Bruce decided after brief consideration. Too many League members would complicate the situation. Zatanna understands dimensional mechanics better than most, and her magical abilities complement your chakra techniques. As Naruto prepared the bat cycle, Kakashi approached Alfred with a surprising request. Might you have any spare masks? Preferably black, covering the lower face only. Alfred, unflappable as always, produced several options from a specialized storage area. Master Bruce maintains various disguise components for undercover work. Would any of these suit your requirements? Kakashi selected a simple but functional mask, securing it in place of his usual face covering. Combined with civilian clothing Alfred had provided upon their arrival, the effect transformed him from distinctive shinobi to nondescript civilian, albeit one with unusual silver hair. Habit of a lifetime, he explained, noting Naruto's observation. Operational security suggests minimizing recognizable features when entering unknown situations. Barbara provided them with specialized communication devices synchronized with the Batsuit's systems. These will keep you connected with me and each other. The Diamond District is approximately 15 minutes from here at standard vehicle speeds. We won't be using standard transportation, Kakashi commented. Moving toward Naruto and the Batcycle. Shinobi travel methods should reduce that considerably. Naruto grinned beneath the cowl, momentary nostalgia washing over him at the prospect of operating alongside his sensei again, even this dimensional variant. Just like old times. Try to keep up, Kakashi-sensei. Some things never change, Kakashi sighed dramatically, Ow, his visible eye reflected subtle amusement. Always rushing ahead without sufficient planning. Bruce interrupted their banter with characteristic focus. This isn't a training exercise. We're dealing with coordinated interdimensional manipulation by unknown hostiles with unclear objectives. Treat every anomaly as potentially hostile until proven otherwise. The sobering reminder shifted their demeanor immediately. Naruto nodded, Batman's gravity settling over him like the cape itself. Understood. Reconnaissance first, engagement only if necessary. We'll maintain constant communication, Barbara assured them, already establishing monitoring protocols on her specialized systems. Any sign of additional breaches or unusual activity, pull back immediately and await Zatanna's arrival. With final preparations complete, Naruto and Kakashi departed through the cave's vehicle tunnel. Rather than both riding the Batcycle, they rapidly established an alternative transportation approach. Naruto moving ahead with the vehicle while Kakashi kept pace using shinobi techniques, occasionally visible as little more than a shadow flickering between elevated positions. Your adjusted fighting style is interesting, Kakashi observed through the communication system as they approached Gotham proper. Limiting your chakra usage forces more technical precision. Might be beneficial training when you return to our world. If I return, Naruto responded, the thought having weighed on him despite his outward adaptation. We still don't know if these breaches are two-way streets. They are, Kakashi confirmed confidently. The dimensional mapping I've been conducting clearly shows reciprocal pathways. The question isn't whether return is possible, but whether whoever is manipulating these breaches wants you to return. The observation hung between them as they entered Gotham's Diamond District, an area of wealth and luxury that contrasted sharply with the poverty of districts like the Bowery. Even at night, security personnel visibly patrolled outside high-end jewelry stores and financial institutions. Oracle, Naruto communicated as they approached the coordinates, any update on the energy signature? Fluctuating but persistent, Barbara replied, concern evident in her voice. Different from previous patterns, this one appears to be maintaining stability rather than dissipating after manifestation. Someone's keeping the door open, Kakashi deduced, voice low as he positioned himself on a rooftop overlooking the specified location, an exclusive gallery currently closed for renovation. Question is, open for what purpose? Naruto parked the Batcycle in a shadowed alley, engaging security protocols before ascending to join Kakashi at his observation point. The gallery below showed no obvious external signs of dimensional activity, but both shinobi could sense the distinctive energy emanating from within. I'm detecting multiple chakra signatures, Naruto reported, his sensory abilities enhanced by careful meditation practice since arriving in Gotham. At least 3 distinct patterns, all with characteristics from our world rather than this one. Kakashi nodded agreement. The dimensional breach appears centered in the main exhibition hall. 2 signatures remain stationary near it, while a third moves methodically through surrounding areas, likely searching for something specific. Zatanna is 8 minutes out, Barbara informed them. Recommend continued observation until her arrival. Bruce's voice joined the communication. Use the cow's scanning features to document the energy pattern. We need to establish whether this breach matches Naruto's arrival parameters or subsequent incursions. Following the instruction, Naruto activated specialized lenses built into Batman's cowl, recording multispectral data of the energy fluctuations visible through the gallery's skylight. The information transmitted automatically to the Batcave's analytical systems. Pattern correlation 87% with your arrival signature, Barbara confirmed after moments of processing. Significantly higher than with Kakashi's transition or the Robinson Park incident. They're using the same entry point that brought me here, Naruto concluded, unease growing as implications crystallized. This isn't random, they're following my specific dimensional trail, which suggests they're either looking for you specifically, Kakashi added grimly, or something connected to your unique abilities. Further speculation halted as movement within the gallery caught their attention. A figure emerged from shadow into moonlight filtering through the skylight, tall, commanding, dressed in what appeared to be formalized shinobi attire incorporating ceremonial elements unfamiliar to Naruto. Can you identify them? Barbara questioned as the cowl transmitted visual data. Kakashi's sudden tension was answer enough. Uchiha clan insignia on traditional battle ceremonial robes. Given the height and movement patterns, Madara Uchiha, though possibly a variant from an adjacent timeline rather than our specific reality. Madara, Naruto hissed, instinctively dropping lower to avoid potential detection. That's impossible. He was transforming into Kagaya when I was displaced. Dimensional branches, Kakashi explained tersely. Each Maho-R decision or event creates alternative reality paths. This could be a Madara from a timeline where Kagaya's resurrection failed or proceeded differently. The implications sent ice through Naruto's veins. Madara Uchiha had nearly destroyed the shinobi world single-handedly. His presence in Gotham, a city without chakra-trained defenders, could prove catastrophic. We need to. Naruto began, but Akashi's hand on his shoulder stopped him. Wait, his sensei cautioned, gaze fixed on the scene below. Something's not right. His movement patterns are wrong for Madara, too hesitant, too cautious. The real Madara never lacked confidence, regardless of surroundings. As if confirming this assessment, the Madara figure below suddenly shifted, posture changing completely as a transformation technique dissolved. In place of the legendary Uchiha stood a much younger man with distinctive facial features partly obscured by specialized goggles. Obito, Kakashi whispered, genuine shock evident in his voice. But he died in our timeline. Another variant, Barbara suggested through the communication system. Bruce theorizes these breaches target parallel dimensions with similar but distinct historical developments. Before they could process this revelation, two additional figures emerged from deeper within the gallery. Unlike the false Madara Obito, these newcomers made no attempt to disguise their appearances or chakra signatures. One, female, with distinctive purple hair and calculating eyes, carried what appeared to be scrolls or documents extracted from display cases. The other, male, with orange-tinted hair and multiple facial piercings, stood guard near what was clearly the dimensional breach itself, a swirling distortion in reality that pulsed with familiar energy. That's, Naruto began, recognition immediate despite the impossibility. Pain, Kakashi finished, voice tight with controlled emotion. Or more accurately, one of Nagato's 6 paths bodies. And the woman appears to be Konan, his primary associate. You know these individuals? Bruce questioned through the communication system. Members of Akatsuki, Kakashi explained tersely, a criminal organization. N from our world specializing in capturing individuals like Naruto, Jinchuriki who host tailed beasts. They were neutralized in our timeline, but clearly active in whatever dimensional variant we're observing. Naruto's mind raced with implications. Akatsuki members crossing dimensions suggested a coordinated effort to locate and potentially capture Jinchuriki across multiple realities, a horrifying escalation of their original ambitions. Zatanna has arrived at your location, Barbara informed them. Eastern approach, maintaining mystical concealment. True to her word, the sorceress materialized beside them moments later. Her appearance heralded only by the subtlest displacement of air. Sorry for the delay. Had to establish containment wards around the perimeter first. She surveyed the scene below. Expression grim as she observed the dimensional breach. That's no natural portal. Someone's using a modified summoning circle to maintain interdimensional stability. Can you close it? Naruto asked urgently. Zatanna's eyes narrowed in concentration. Not without potentially trapping anyone already transitioned, including our uninvited visitors. We need to capture and contain them for questioning first. 3 high-level shinobi, Kakashi assessed professionally. Pain's abilities include gravity manipulation, chakra absorption, and summoning. Konan manipulates paper with deadly precision. Obito, if that's truly him, possessed intangibility and spatial manipulation in our reality. Wonderful, Zatanna muttered. Dimension hoppers with convenient dimension-hopping powers. Just what we needed. Despite the gravity of the situation, Naruto found himself appreciating her sardonic attitude, reminiscent of Tsunade's exasperation with particularly troublesome missions. We need to coordinate. If they're here for what I think they are, they won't leave willingly. Agreed, Kakashi nodded. Standard formation 7 modified for the environment. You take point while Zatanna and I establish perimeter containment. The familiar strategic approach, Kakashi falling naturally into instructor mode despite dimensional displacement, brought momentary comfort amid escalating threats. Naruto nodded, Batman's cowl adding gravity to the simple gesture. On my signal, he confirmed, already calculating optimal entry points and initial engagement tactics. 3, 2, 1. As they prepared to move, the false Madara below suddenly stiffened, head tilting upward toward their position with unnatural precision. Even through the disguise, Naruto recognized the distinct Tive awareness pattern of activated Sharingan. We've been detected, Kakashi warned, already shifting to secondary tactical position. The world seemed to pause for a fractional moment, Naruto poised to launch. Kakashi reaching for concealed weapons, Zatanna's hands beginning mystical gestures, before chaos erupted below. The dimensional breach pulsed violently, expanding in irregular patterns as energy cascaded outward in visible waves. The three Akatsuki members immediately abandoned their search, converging on the portal with practiced coordination. Pain's outstretched hand generated a gravitational pulse that sent display cases crashing away, creating clear space around the breach. They're destabilizing it deliberately, Zatanna realized, hands moving in complex patterns as she spoke. Eterk Rerab di Nura Latrop. Mystical energy manifested around the dimensional breach, attempting to contain its expanding influence. The barrier shimmered into existence just as Naruto and Kakashi launched themselves through the gallery skylight, glass shattering around them as they descended into the confrontation below. Naruto landed directly between the Akatsuki members and their escape route. Batman's cape billowing around him in a dramatic silhouette that momentarily gave even these hardened criminals pause. Kakashi materialized beside him, already forming hand seals for a lightning technique. Interdimensional travel without proper authorization, Naruto growled in Batman's voice, the incongruity of the statement striking him even as he delivered it. Surrender now. The F. Alcee Madara, now confirmed as Obito by closer visual inspection, recovered first, his Sharingan spinning hypnotically behind specialized goggles. The Batman. Interesting. This world's defenders are more directly involved than our intelligence suggested. Pain remained expressionless, Rinnegan eyes evaluating the tactical situation with mechanical precision. The dimensional signature matches our target parameters. But this individual is not the Jinchuriki we seek. Plans change, Conan stated flatly, paper already peeling from her form in defensive formation. We have what we came for. Retreat is advisable. Naruto tensed, prepared to intercept any movement toward the dimensional breach, but Obito's next words froze him momentarily. The energy pattern is consistent with the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. The masked Uchiha observed, Sharingan focusing directly on Naruto. Though masked by this world's unusual ambient vibration, Kakashi stepped slightly forward, drawing attention deliberately. Your interdimensional manipulation has destabilized reality across multiple worlds. Whatever you're seeking isn't worth the damage you're causing. Pain's Rinnegan shifted to Kakashi, Recon. Ishin evident despite the different mask. Kakashi Hatake, your presence in this dimension was unexpected but not unpredictable. The Jinchuriki's former teacher would naturally pursue his missing student. The confirmation that they were indeed hunting Naruto specifically eliminated any remaining doubts about their intentions. Before they could react further, Zatanna completed a complex spell sequence. Magical energy encircling the gallery interior. Les sit e caps morph lanwanemid lavart. She commanded, reversed words echoing with supernatural resonance. The effect was immediate. The dimensional breach contracted violently. Energy patterns stabilizing under mystical constraint. Obito's visible eye widened in alarm as he attempted to activate his own space-time technique, only to find the dimensional frequencies disrupted by Zatanna's spell. Dimensional transport temporarily neutralized, she announced with grim satisfaction. Nobody's leaving until we get answers. Pain remained unnervingly calm despite this setback. Interesting capabilities. Your reality's energy manipulation differs fundamentally from chakra, yet achieves similar effects through alternative pathways. Enough talk, Naruto growled. Patience exhausted. Why are you tracking me across dimensions? The question hung momentarily in tense silence before Conan answered, her normally impassive expression showing subtle surprise. You reveal yourself easily, Jinchuriki. Though your disguise is creative. The Nine Tails chakra signature is distinctive even across dimensional barriers, Pain explained with clinical detachment. Though it appears muted in your case, interesting adaptation to this reality's different energetic properties. Kakashi shifted subtly, ready to intercept any offensive movement. You didn't answer his question. What possible value does pursuing Jinchuriki across dimensions serve? The Akatsuki's original plan was limited by single-dimensional thinking, Obito interrupted, his voice changing subtly as he dropped the false Madara persona completely. Why extract tailed beasts from only one reality when infinite parallel worlds contain infinite variations of the same power sources? The implication stunned Naruto momentarily. You're hunting Jinchuriki across multiple dimensions. That's efficient, Pain stated simply. Our objective transcends individual realities. True peace requires resources beyond what any single dimension can provide. Zatanna's expression darkened as she processed the implications. You're harvesting power sources from peril. L worlds to fuel some kind of interdimensional weapon. Not a weapon, Conan corrected, paper swirling around her in increasingly agitated patterns. A solution. A final end to the cycle of hatred that transcends dimensional boundaries. Quote, the familiar terminology, echoing Pain's rhetoric from Naruto's own reality, confirmed these were indeed variants of the same Akatsuki members he had encountered. Their objectives remained consistent even across dimensional boundaries, though their methods had evolved to frightening new applications. Whatever you're planning stops now, Naruto declared, drive, upping Batman's voice in favor of his own natural conviction. I've stopped Akatsuki before, I'll do it again. Pain's Rinnegan fixed on him with renewed intensity. Your confidence is familiar, Naruto Uzumaki. In how many realities, I wonder, have we enacted this same confrontation with different outcomes? Before Naruto could respond, Obito made his move, not attacking directly but activating S. own kind of device concealed within his robes. The dimensional breach, despite Zatanna's containment, pulsed with renewed energy. Backup summoning array, Obito explained calmly as alarm spread across Zatanna's features. Did you think we wouldn't prepare contingencies for interdimensional interference? The breach expanded violently, shattering Zatanna's mystical barriers as reality itself seemed to fracture around them. Through the widening portal, Naruto glimpsed what appeared to be additional Akatsuki members waiting on the other side, dimensional reinforcements prepared to transition. Zatanna, Naruto shouted over the rising energetic maelstrom. Can you close it? The sorceress was already in motion, hands weaving complex patterns as she attempted to counter the destabilization. Working on it. Keep them busy. Kakashi engaged Obito directly, lightning chakra crackling around his hand in a familiar Chidori formation. Focus on Pain and Conan, he instructed Naruto. I know Obito's techniques better than anyone. The gallery erupted into coordinated combat. Kakashi and Obito locked in precisely matched taijutsu exchanges that suggested intimate familiarity with each other's methods. While Naruto found himself simultaneously defending against Pain's gravitational techniques and Conan's paper projectiles. Batman's equipment proved surprisingly effective against shinobi opponents. The cape's reinforced material deflected Conan's paper shuriken, while specialized batarangs disrupted Pain's concentration during crucial technique formations. Combined with Naruto's Ural shinobi abilities, carefully modulated to maintain some semblance of Batman's fighting style, he managed to hold his own against opponents who had once required his full Jinchuriki transformation to confront. Oracle, he communicated between defensive maneuvers, situation escalating. Dimensional breach expanding. Request Justice League support. Understood. Barbara responded immediately. Flash incoming. 3 minutes. Superman on standby. Zatanna continued her mystical countermeasures, arcane energy flowing from her hands in elaborate patterns that gradually constricted the expanding breach. Whatever device they're using is sophisticated, she called out between incantations. The dimensional harmonics keep shifting to counteract my spells. Pain seemed to recognize her as the primary threat, redirecting his attention from Naruto to the sorceress. Shinra Tensei, he intoned, palm extending toward Zatanna as gravitational force surged outward. Naruto intercepted the technique with chakra-enhanced speed, substituting himself directly in Pain's line of fire. The gravitational pulse slammed into him with devastating force, sending him crashing through multiple display cases despite his defensive positioning. The impact would have incapacitated or killed an ordinary human, but Naruto's enhanced durability allowed him to recover quickly, rolling to his feet amid shattered glass and splintered wood. Batman's cowl had protected his head from the worst damage, though the cape was now torn in multiple places. You possess the Nine Tails durability, Pain observed clinically. But your chakra manifestation remains suppressed. This world's ambient energy interferes with your connection to the tailed beast. Conan capitalized on this assessment, paper techniques transforming from simple projectiles to complex binding formations designed to restrict chakra flow. Restrain him for transport, she instructed Pain. His dimensional frequency still matches our primary target world. The implication that they intended to take him back through the portal, presumably to extract Kurama in a reality where their techniques would function at full capacity, galvanized Naruto's response. Batman's fighting restrictions no longer applied in a situation where interdimensional terrorists threatened both Gotham and his homeworld simultaneously. Shadow Clone Jutsu, he declared, forming familiar hand seals as chakra surged through his system. 20 perfect duplicates materialized around the gallery, each wearing the damaged Batman costume but moving with unmistakable shinobi coordination. The sudden multiplication of opponents clearly surprised the Akatsuki members, forcing them to reassess tactical priorities. Interesting adaptation, Pain acknowledged, Rin. Negan analyzing the chakra distribution among clones. But inefficient in this reality. Your energy dissipates more rapidly here than in our dimension. The assessment was accurate. Naruto could feel his shadow clones consuming chakra at nearly twice the normal rate, the unfamiliar dimensional properties creating resistance to his techniques. Still, the tactical advantage of multiple simultaneous attackers remained significant. Zatanna seized the opportunity provided by Naruto's distraction, completing a particularly complex spell sequence directed at the dimensional breach itself. Esrever Eht Latrop Wolf. She commanded, mystical energy surging into the distortion. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The breach contracted violently, its energetic polarity inverting as Zatanna's spell took effect. Instead of allowing passage from the other dimension to this one, the portal began pulling in the opposite direction, creating powerful suction toward the world the Akatsuki had originated from. She's reversed the portal flow. Conan realized first, paper wings forming defensively around her as she anchored herself to structural elements. Obito disengaged from his fight with Kakashi, attention shifting to the destabilizing breach. The dimensional anchor is failing. We need to withdraw now or risk permanent displacement. Pain seemed to calculate options briefly before reaching a decision. Retreat. We have sufficient data for the next phase. His Rinnegan fixed on Naruto with disturbing intensity. We will meet again, Naruto Uzumaki. In this world or another. The three Akatsuki members converged on the portal, fighting against its reversed pull to position themselves for controlled re-entry. Naruto and his clones attempted pursuit, but Pain's gravitational techniques created effective interference, pushing them back with precisely calculated force. Let them go, Zatanna instructed, maintaining complex gestures as she controlled the portal's contraction. Once they're through, I can seal the breach properly. Kakashi rejoined Naruto, lightning chakra still crackling around one hand as he watched their opponent's retreat. They obtained whatever information they came for. The question is, what exactly were they searching for in an art gallery? Naruto dispersed his remaining shadow clones, conserving chakra as the immediate threat receded. Oracle, can you access the gallery's inventory? Find out what exhibits were scheduled for the renovation period. Already on it, Barbara confirmed through the communication system. The main exhibition was, mystical artifacts through history, items with supposed supernatural properties from various cultures and time periods. As the Akatsuki members disappeared through the contracting portal, Zatanna completed her spell sequence. Mystical energy sealing the dimensional breach with a final surge of power. The distortion collapsed in on itself, reality snapping back to normal configuration with an audible thunderclap. Breach contained, she announced, fatigue evident in her voice despite her composed demeanor. Though I doubt that's the last we've seen of your interdimensional admirers. Kakashi was already examining the gallery's display cases, methodically cataloging what remained after the Akatsuki's intrusion. They were selective in what they took. Only certain artifacts, ignoring objectively more valuable items nearby. Naruto joined the investigation, Batman's detective training asserting itself as he analyzed the scene systematically. They knew exactly what they were looking for. This wasn't opportunistic, it was targeted acquisition. Which means they had advance intelligence about this world, Kakashi concluded grimly. Someone's been providing information across dimensions. Zatanna knelt beside the location where the portal had manifested, mystical energy flowing from her fingertips as she examined residual traces. The dimensional frequencies are familiar. Similar to what I detected during your arrival, Naruto, but with subtle modifications. They're refining their technique, Barbara theorized through the communication system. Each incursion provides data they use to improve subsequent breaches. Quote, The gallery's main entrance suddenly illuminated with red lightning as a figure materialized, humanoid, dressed in distinctive red costume with lightning bolt insignia. "Sorry I'm late to the party," the Flash announced, surveying the destruction with professional assessment. Dimensional disturbance readings just dropped significantly. "Zatanna's work, I assume." "Barry." Zatanna acknowledged the speedster with a tired nod. "Yes, breach contained for now, but we have a situation. Interdimensional terrorists specifically targeting powered individuals across multiple realities." Flash absorbed this information with characteristic rapid processing. "League needs to know. This crosses jurisdictional boundaries beyond even our usual cosmic-level threats." His gaze settled on Naruto. Recognition evident despite the damaged Batman costume. "You must be the dimensional visitor Bruce mentioned." "Flash, nice to meet you, though the circumstances could be better." The casual introduction, so different from the gravity of their situation, reminded Naruto briefly of how Killer Bee had approached similarly world-threatening circumstances during the Fourth Great Ninja War. Some personalities maintained their essential nature regardless of circumstance. "Naruto Uzumaki," he introduced himself, removing Batman's damaged cowl. "And this is Kakashi Hatake, also from my world, more or less." Flash nodded, processing the information at superhuman speed. "Two for the price of one, dimensional-wise. Any idea what your terrorists were after specifically?" "That's what we need to determine," Kakashi replied, indicating the selectively ransacked displays. "They took specific artifacts while ignoring others of similar apparent value." As they discussed possibilities, Barbara continued her remote investigation through the Batcave's systems. Gallery inventory database accessed. Cross-referencing missing items against exhibition catalog, interesting. They specifically targeted artifacts associated with dimensional boundaries and consciousness transfer. "Soul migration," Zatanna translated grimly. "They're researching methods to transfer consciousness between dimensional vessels." The implication hung heavily in the air before Kakashi verbalized what they were all thinking. They're not just hunting tailed beasts across dimensions. They're redeveloping techniques to extract and transfer them between realities. Naruto felt cold understanding settle in his core. "That's why my connection with Kurama feels muted here. Something about is reality's different properties affects the tailed beast's consciousness differently than human consciousness, which they're now trying to overcome with artifacts from our world," Flash concluded. Speed reading the information Barbara transmitted to a portable device, creating a method to extract tailed beasts that works across dimensional boundaries. Zatanna's expression darkened as she completed her mystical examination of the breach site. "There's something else. The dimensional signature carries traces of what we call bleed energy, the fundamental substance that separates and connects realities. Whoever designed their transportation method has advanced knowledge of multiversal mechanics, beyond what Obito or Pain would likely possess," Kakashi noted with professional assessment. "Suggesting additional players we haven't identified yet." Their discussion paused as sirens approached, GCPD finally responding to automated alarms triggered by the gallery's destruction. Flash glanced toward the sound before turning back to the group. "I'll update the League while you handle local authorities." Batman. Naruto, we should convene at the Watchtower to coordinate interdimensional defense protocols. This affects all realities, not just Gotham. Naruto nodded, repositioning the cowl despite its damaged state. Batman's relationship with Gotham authorities required maintaining certain appearances, even under extraordinary circumstances. "I'll report once we've secured the scene," he confirmed, settling back into the vigilante persona that still felt like borrowed clothing rather than his own identity. As Flash disappeared in a blur of speed and Zatanna began establishing mystical containment around remaining artifacts, Naruto found himself standing beside Kakashi. IDST the devastation. Two shinobi far from home, facing enemies who transcended dimensional boundaries with terrifying new ambitions. "In our world," Kakashi observed quietly, "Akatsuki sought tailed beasts to create a weapon for enforcing peace through fear. This interdimensional variant appears to have expanded that vision across all realities." The infinite Tsukuyomi, Naruto realized, pieces connecting in his mind. Not just for our world, but for every world. Every reality trapped in the same genjutsu. The scale of such ambition, and the devastating power it would require, transcended anything they had confronted before. As police vehicles surrounded the gallery and Commissioner Gordon's distinctive silhouette appeared against emergency lights, Naruto squared his shoulders beneath Batman's cape. "We stopped them once," he stated with quiet determination. "We'll stop them again. In every reality they threaten." Kakashi's visible eye crinkled slightly in what might have been a smile beneath his mask. "Some things truly don't change across dimensions, do they? Your optimism remains constant regardless of which reality we find ourselves in." As they moved to engage with Gotham's authorities, Naruto felt the weight of two worlds resting on his shoulders, the responsibility of protecting his adopted city alongside the duty to prevent interdimensional catastrophe. Batman's leg, ACY, and his own ninja way converging toward a singular purpose. "Some things shouldn't change," he replied simply, Batman's cowl framing eyes that burned with Naruto Uzumaki's unshakable determination. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Reflections in Darkness. 1 week after the gallery incident, Gotham's perpetual gloom seemed to press more heavily against the city's jagged skyline. Rain fell in thin, icy needles, transforming streetlights into hazy constellations that bled across reflective surfaces. The kind of night where even hardened criminals might think twice about venturing out. Perfect hunting conditions for Gotham's guardian. Naruto perched atop the Gotham First National Bank's neo-Gothic gargoyle, water streaming from Batman's cape in rivulets that joined the cascade 40 stories below. The cowl's enhanced optics penetrated the downpour, tracking movement across rooftops 3 blocks east. The figure moved with deliberate grace, too skilled for a common thief, too confident for someone who feared Batman's intervention. "Oracle," Naruto sub-vocalized into the cowl's communication system, "I've spotted our target. Moving east along the Diamond District roofline." "Exactly as predicted. Catwoman's nothing if not consistent," Barbara responded, the faint clicking of keyboards accompanying her voice. "That route leads directly to the Gregorian Museum. They just finished installing the Treasures of Ancient Dynasties exhibit, including several jade artifacts supposedly blessed by mystics for protection." Naruto allowed himself a small smile beneath the cowl. "Protection, eh? Against everything except professional thieves, apparently. She prefers independent acquisitions specialist," Barbara replied, amusement coloring her tone. "Selina's complicated, even by Gotham standards. Bruce has a history with her." That was putting it mildly, based on the files Naruto had reviewed. Selina Kyle, Catwoman, occupied a unique position in Batman's rogue gallery, sometimes enemy, sometimes ally. Frequently something more personal than either designation suggested. "I remember the files," Naruto acknowledged, already moving to intercept her path. "Professional thief with a conscience. Targets the wealthy exclusively. Occasionally helps Batman against bigger threats. And they have a romantic history that makes Romeo and Juliet look well adjusted," Barbara added. "Just so you're prepared, she'll notice you're not the original Batman within seconds." Naruto vaulted between buildings, the distance between him and his target narrowing with each precisely calculated movement. Unlike his early days in the costume, he now moved with fluid economy, conserving energy while maintaining Batman's imposing presence. 7 days of intensive training with Bruce and several Gotham patrols had refined his approach considerably. Let her notice, he decided. Maybe honesty gets better results than pretending. Barbara's sigh carried clearly through the communication system. "Your call." But Catwoman's reactions are unpredictable at best. Especially where Batman is concerned. Naruto closed the final distance between rooftops, landing silently 20 feet behind Catwoman as she paused at a building edge. Her costume, black, form-fitting, with specialized goggles pushed up on her forehead, glistened with rainwater under ambient city light. She didn't turn despite his proximity, though her posture indicated awareness of his presence. "You're getting sloppy, Batman," she purred, voice carrying easily despite the rainfall. "I heard you 3 rooftops back. Coming down with a cold. Or just eager to see me?" "Neither," Naruto responded, maintaining Batman's gruff intonation but making no attempt to perfectly mimic Bruce's voice. "Just thought we should talk before you robbed the Gregorian." That got her attention. She turned slowly, cat-like grace evident in every movement as she fully faced him for the first time. Sharp green eyes assessed him from a face partially concealed by her specialized mask. Full lips quirking into a knowing smile as her gaze traveled his form. Well, she drawled, taking a deliberate step closer. Aren't you interesting? New suit, new posture, new voice. But trying very hard to be the same old Batman. Her head tilted slightly, examination continuing. What happened to the original? Injury or just a long overdue vacation? Naruto maintained his position, impressed by her immediate perception despite his careful mimicry of Batman's mannerisms. What makes you think I'm not him? Catwoman laughed, the sound surprisingly genuine despite their confrontational positioning. Please, I know that man's body better than anyone except maybe his butler. You move differently, more fluid, less mechanically precise. Your shoulders set at a different angle, and you're shorter by at least an inch. Her assessment, delivered with casual confidence, demonstrated why Selina Kyle had survived so long in Gotham's unforgiving ecosystem. Nothing escaped her notice, especially not details about Batman. Injury, Naruto confirmed, seeing no value in maintaining the pretense. Temporary replacement while he recovers. Temporary, she repeated, testing the word as she circled him with predatory interest. Interesting. He's never trusted anyone enough for full cowl privileges before. You must be special. She stopped directly in front of him. Close enough that most men would have instinctively stepped back. Does the substitute have a name? Naruto held his ground, aware that physical intimidation was part of her standard approach. Not one I'm sharing on a rooftop. Her smile widened appreciatively. Smart boy, almost as paranoid as the original. I like that. She shifted back slightly, posture relaxing from confrontational to conversational. So what's the deal, new bat? Came to warn me off tonight's acquisition. Because I should mention, those jade pieces were originally stolen from their homeland during colonial occupation. I'm merely facilitating their return to legitimate cultural authorities. For a substantial finder's fee, I assume, Naruto responded dryly. Catwoman shrugged, unapologetic. Girls got to eat. Besides, my client's authentication process requires absolute discretion. Museums ask too many questions about provenance. The justification followed patterns Naruto recognized. Rom Bruce's files. Selina consistently framed her thefts as ethical corrections rather than criminal acts. Sometimes the rationalization even contained legitimate grievances, which complicated Batman's usual black and white approach to lawbreaking. I'm not here about the jade, Naruto informed her, shifting their conversation toward his actual objective. I need information about unusual artifacts appearing in Gotham's black market. Things that don't belong in this world. Catwoman's expression changed subtly, curiosity replacing the flirtatious facade she'd maintained. Interdimensional goods. That's specialized knowledge. She crossed her arms, business calculations clearly running behind those sharp green eyes. What's in it for me if I share what I know? Besides me not stopping tonight's acquisition. Naruto countered. Her laugh returned, genuinely amused. You're definitely not him. The original Batman would never explicitly offer to look the other way, even when we both know he sometimes does. She studied him with renewed interest. You're more direct. I appreciate that in a vigilante. Rainwater continued streaming around them as Naruto considered his approach. Barba. Ra had emphasized Catwoman's unpredictability but also her surprising ethical code. The right appeal might secure her cooperation more effectively than threats or bargaining. People are dying, he said simply, dropping Batman's growl for a more genuine tone. Whoever's trafficking these interdimensional artifacts doesn't care about collateral damage. If you've heard anything, seen anything that seems wrong even by Gotham standards, I need to know. Something in his directness seemed to register with her. Catwoman's posture shifted again, performative seduction giving way to professional assessment. The Penguin's been moving unusual merchandise through the Iceberg Lounge's private collection, she offered after a moment's consideration. Items that make his usual black market antiquities look mundane. Scrolls with writing no linguist recognizes. Weapons that supposedly channel energy but don't work for most buyers. Naruto tensed at the description. Chakra weapons. They'd be useless to anyone without proper training. Chakra, Catwoman repeated, testing the unfamiliar term. Is that what they're calling it? The street name is Ghost Energy, or Spirit Tech, depending on which dealer you ask. She tilted her head, raindrops tracking down her mask like tears. You recognize these items. They're from your world, aren't they, new bat? The perception startled him. What makes you think? The way you tensed when I described them. Your immediate recognition of whatever chakra is. She stepped closer again, eyes narrowing. Plus, your sudden appearance coincides CTLY with when these artifacts started appearing in Gotham. It's not complicated math. Naruto reassessed Selena Kyle's intelligence upward considerably. Most civilians, even most criminals, wouldn't make such connections without substantially more information. Yes, he confirmed after brief consideration. They're from my world. Dangerous in the wrong hands, potentially catastrophic in the right ones. Catwoman nodded, something like genuine concern briefly crossing her features. There's an auction scheduled 3 nights from now. Very exclusive. Invitation only. Penguin's showing his latest acquisitions to serious buyers, including items that supposedly came through a dimensional tear during some incident downtown. The gallery breach. Artifacts the Akatsuki hadn't managed to secure. Must have been retrieved by opportunistic locals, likely ending up with Gotham's premier black market dealer. I need to see what's being sold, Naruto decided immediately. Can you get me in? Me, help Batman crash Penguin's exclusive auction. Catwoman laughed, the sound sharp against the rainfall. That would be professional suicide in my circles. I'm not asking you to help Batman, Naruto clarified, reaching up to remove the cowl in a gesture that would have horrified Bruce Wayne. Rain immediately soaked his blonde hair as whisker-marked features emerged from behind the mask. I'm asking you to help me. Catwoman's eyes widened fractionally, the only indication of surprise from someone trained to maintain composure in extreme situations. Well, she murmured appreciatively, that's definitely not what I expected under the cowl. Bold move, showing your face to a known criminal. I'm trusting you, Naruto stated simply, blinking away raindrops. Because lives depend on recovery. Ing those artifacts before they're sold to people who might accidentally tear reality apart trying to use them. She studied his exposed features with undisguised curiosity, cataloging details with professional thoroughness. You're not from around here at all, are you? Those markings, not typical Gotham fashion. I'm from another dimension entirely, Naruto confirmed, replacing the cowl before. The exposure could attract unwanted attention. The same place those artifacts originated. I need to contain them before they cause more damage. Catwoman considered this information, calculations, visibly running behind those perceptive eyes. Finally, she nodded once, decision made. All right, Whiskers, you've caught my interest. I can get you into the auction, not as Batman, obviously. You'll need a convincing cover identity. Rich collector with questionable ethics and unquestionable bank accounts. Oracle can handle the identity, Naruto confirmed, relief evident in his voice despite Batman's stoic facade. Thank you, Selena, quote. Her eyebrows rose slightly at his use of her civilian name. Knows my identity and shows me his face in our first meeting. You really aren't anything like the original, are you? I have my own way of doing things, Naruto acknowledged. Sometimes trust builds better alliances than fear. Dangerous philosophy in Gotham, she warned, though something like approval colored her tone. This city eats trust for breakfast and asks for seconds. She turned toward the museum, their original confrontation point apparently forgotten. I'll contact you with details for the auction. For now, I have cultural repatriation to facilitate. And I'll pretend I didn't see anything, Naruto replied, the corner of his mouth lifting beneath the cowl. Catwoman glanced back over her shoulder, a genuine smile replacing her usual calculated expressions. You know, Whiskers, I think I might like this version of Batman. Less brooding, more direct. It's refreshingly honest for someone wearing a mask. With that parting observation, she leapt gracefully from the rooftop, specialized whip extending to catch an adjacent building as she swung toward her original target. Naruto watched her disappear into the rainy darkness, already calculating how to explain this unorthodox alliance to Barbara and Bruce. I heard everything, Oracle's voice confirmed through his communication system. Bold move revealing your identity. Calculated risk, Naruto replied, already moving toward his next patrol sector. She made me immediately anyway. Better to establish trust than pretend. Bruce won't be pleased, Barbara warned, though her tone suggested she wasn't entirely disapproving. Selena's allegiances shift with the wind. Maybe, Naruto acknowledged, launching himself across the gap between buildings with practiced ease. But sometimes people live up to the trust you place in them. Worth trying, at least. As he continued his patrol route through Gotham's rain-slick landscape, Naruto's mind returned repeatedly to what Catwoman had revealed. Artifacts from his world, shinobi tools and weapons, circulating in Gotham's black market represented more than mere interdimensional curiosities. In untrained hands, they were dangerous; in properly trained ones, potentially devastating. The night stretched long, filled with the usual Gotham criminal activities, muggings prevented, drug deals interrupted, a convenience store robbery stopped before it turned violent. Routine work that nevertheless saved lives and prevented suffering. By the time dawn threatened along the eastern horizon, Naruto had foiled 17 separate criminal acts and left 32 perpetrators secured for police collection. Yet his thoughts remained focused on the larger THR, represented by interdimensional trafficking. Each patrol felt increasingly like treating symptoms while the disease spread unchecked. Oracle, he communicated as he finally turned the Batcycle toward Wayne Manor. Run a complete analysis on every unusual item recovered from criminal scenes this week. Look for anything that might have originated outside this dimension. Already compiling that data, Barbara confirmed. Bruce requested the same analysis yesterday. He's been examining patterns in the dimensional breaches reported across Gotham. The mention of Bruce Wayne prompted another concern that had been growing since their encounter with the Akatsuki members. Any update on his condition? Barbara's hesitation spoke volumes before she eventually responded. Dr. Tompkins adjusted his treatment protocol again. The spinal inflammation isn't responding as hoped. He's in considerable pain, though he'd never admit it. The news settled heavily in Naruto's chest. Despite occasional disagreements over methods, he developed genuine respect for Bruce Wayne. The man's determination to protect his city despite lacking metahuman abilities reminded Naruto of Rock Lee's perseverance against naturally gifted opponents. Does he need me to extend my commitment? Naruto asked directly. I know we originally discussed this as temporary, but if his recovery timeline has changed. Let's have that conversation when you return, Barbara interrupted gently. Some discussions are better had in person rather than over comms. The implication was clear. Bruce's condition might be worse than previously acknowledged. Naruto accelerated the Batcycle, cutting through Gotham's awakening streets with newfound urgency. The Batcave's clinical illumination seemed harsher than usual when Naruto arrived, the vast space echoing with his footsteps as he dismounted. Alfred awaited him with characteristic composure, though subtle tension around the elderly man's eyes suggested concern beneath his professional demeanor. Master Naruto, Alfred greeted him formally. I trust your patrol was productive. 17 incidents, Naruto confirmed, removing the cowl as he approached. Nothing unusual except my conversation with Catwoman. Alfred's eyebrow rose slightly. Ah, Ms. Kyle, always an unpredictable element in Master Bruce's ecosystem. I understand you took Arthur direct approach to securing her cooperation. You could say that, Naruto acknowledged, beginning to remove the Batsuit's components. As Bruce awake, I'd like to brief him directly on what she revealed about the Penguin's auction. Quote, Master Bruce is currently with Dr. Tompkins in the medical bay, Alfred replied, his usual formal cadence carrying undertones of concern. Their session should conclude shortly. Perhaps you might wish to refresh yourself before the debriefing. The suggestion, delivered with Alfred's characteristic tact, was clearly meant to provide Bruce privacy during medical treatment. Naruto nodded understanding, heading toward the cave's shower facilities while Alfred collected the Batsuit components for maintenance and repair. Clean and dressed in civilian clothes. Simple attire selected from what Alfred called Bruce's casual collection, Naruto made his way to the Batcave's central platform where Barbara worked at the main computer array. Multiple screens displayed data about interdimensional energy readings, artifact analysis, and criminal movement patterns throughout Gotham. Busy night, she observed without looking away from her monitors. The convenience store intervention was particularly well executed. Clean takedown, minimal property damage, no civilian injuries. Getting the hang of Batman's more restrained approach, Naruto acknowledged, pulling up a chair beside her. Though I still think shadow clones would make everything more efficient. Barbara smiled slightly, finally turning to face him. Efficiency isn't always the point. Sometimes Batman's methods are deliberately designed to create specific psychological impacts rather than simply neutralizing threats. The symbol matters as much as the actions, Naruto quoted Bruce's frequent reminder. I get it. Still feels unnecessarily complicated sometimes. Says the ninja from another dimension, Barbara countered with gentle teasing. Their relationship had evolved considerably over the past week, professional respect developing into something approaching friendship. How's Kakashi settling into his apartment? After the gallery incident, Kakashi had declined continued accommodation at Wayne Manor. Preferring a safe house Barbara had arranged in Gotham's relatively peaceful Burnley district. He maintained daily contact but pursued independent investigation into the dimensional anomalies affecting the city. Adapting well, from what I can tell, Naruto replied, stretching tired muscles. He's been tracking energy signatures across the city, trying to establish a pattern to the breaches. Similar to our approach, Barbara noted, gesturing toward one monitor displaying a map of Gotham with pinpointed locations. These represent all confirmed dimensional anomalies over the past 2 weeks. The distribution seemed random initially, but Bruce noticed something interesting. She manipulated the display, adding a layer of architectural schematics that overlaid the anomaly points. When mapped against Gotham's ley lines, theoretical energy channels running through the city's bedrock, the breaches all occur at intersection points. Naruto studied the pattern with growing concern. So whoever's creating these dimensional tiers is using Gotham's natural energy pathways to amplify their techniques. Precisely, came Bruce Wayne's voice from behind them. Naruto turned to find Bruce approaching in his specialized wheelchair, expression tightly controlled despite evident pain in his movements. Dr. Tompkins followed close behind, medical concern visible in her professional assessment. He shouldn't be working, the doctor stated flatly, addressing Barbara and Naruto rather than her patient. The new treatment requires rest to evaluate efficacy. Cognitive engagement elevates heart rate, which accelerates inflammation. People are dying, Leslie, Bruce countered with characteristic determination. Interdimensional incursions are increasing in frequency and magnitude. Rest can wait. Dr. Tompkins sighed with the weary resignation of someone who had fought this particular battle many times before. 30 minutes. Then medication and bed rest. I'm not negotiating this time. Bruce Wayne's expression suggested he might argue further, but eventually he nodded agreement. 30 minutes. Naruto, report on your Catwoman engagement. Naruto outlined his rooftop conversation with Selina Kyle, including his decision to reveal his identity and their arrangement regarding Penguin's upcoming auction. Throughout the briefing, Bruce's expression remained carefully neutral, though tension gradually accumulated around his eyes. You compromised operational security, he stated once Naruto finished. Not a question, an assessment. I made a calculated decision to establish trust with a potential ally, Naruto countered firmly. Catwoman recognized I wasn't you within seconds. Continuing the pretense would have damaged credibility without providing any security benefit. Selina's perceptive, Barbara interjected, clearly attempting to diffuse growing tension. And she's maintained Bruce's secret identity for years despite having every opportunity to expose it. That was her choice regarding someone she has complicated feelings for, Bruce replied, fingers steepled in characteristic contemplation. You removed her choice regarding your identity, Naruto. Actions have consequences, particularly in Gotham. The criticism stung, particularly because Naruto recognized the legitimate security concerns underlying it. Yet he stood by his decision. Building alliances through trust rather than fear represented a fundamental aspect of his ninja way. If I'd maintained the pretense, we wouldn't know about Penguin's auction, he pointed out. Sometimes vulnerability creates openings that strength can't. Something shifted in Bruce's expression. Not quite approval, but perhaps recognition of a valid strategic perspective different from his own. The auction intelligence is valuable, he conceded after a moment. Oracle will create an appropriate cover identity for infiltration. Ideally one without distinctive facial markings. Already working on it, Barbara confirmed, screens shifting to display identity creation protocols. Holographic facial overlays should conceal the whisker markings. We'll need to disguise The hair as well, blonde is too distinctive given your previous public exposure during the gallery incident. As they discussed operational details for the auction infiltration drive, Tompkins monitored D. Bruce's vital signs with professional discretion. The 30-minute limit approached rapidly, but Wayne showed no indication of honoring their agreement until the doctor deliberately cleared her throat. "Time's up, Bruce," she announced firmly. "Your inflammation markers are already elevating. Further delay compromises recovery." The frustration that crossed Wayne's features revealed more about his condition than any medical report. Batman, the real Batman, hated few things more than physical limitation. Being confined to observation and strategy while others implemented his plans clearly grated against his fundamental nature. "We'll continue tomorrow," he conceded finally, allowing Drive Tompkins to take control of his wheelchair. "Naruto, rest today. Tonight's patrol should focus on gathering additional intelligence about Penguin's operation. Avoid direct confrontation until we understand exactly what artifacts he's acquired." As Bruce departed with the doctor, Naruto found himself studying the man's retreating form with complex emotions. Respect for his strategic brilliance and determination. Sympathy for his physical suffering. Frustration with his occasionally rigid tactical perspectives. "He's hurting worse than he lets on," Barbara observed quietly once they were alone. The damage from Bane was extensive. Multiple vertebrae compromised, nerve compression increasing despite treatment. Naruto absorbed this information silently, memories surfacing of his own experiences with seemingly impossible recovery scenarios. "In my world, medical ninjutsu could probably heal this level of injury. Grandma Tsunade could regenerate damaged nerves, restore vertebral integrity. Different worlds, different rules," Barbara replied with resigned acceptance. "Here we work with what we have. Brilliant doctors pushing medical science to its limits, but still bound by human constraints." The observation prompted uncomfortable recognition of Naruto's own altered capabilities in this dimension. While his chakra remained accessible, certain techniques functioned differently or required significantly more energy than in his home world. The natural energy that supplemented his abilities in the shinobi world existed here in different patterns and concentrations, making Sage Mode more difficult to maintain. "I should check on Kurama," he decided suddenly. "My connectio with the Nine Tails has been inconsistent since arriving here. Maybe meditation will help strengthen our communication." Barbara nodded understanding. "Use the East Meditation Chamber. It's quieter, and the natural rock formations provide better insulation against the cave's ambient noise." The meditation chamber she recommended was small but peaceful, a natural alcove in the cave system that Bruce had modified with simple cushions and subtle lighting. Naruto settled into a comfortable position, gradually slowing his breathing as he turned attention inward toward the mental landscape where Kurama typically manifested. The familiar passage into his mindscape seemed hazier than usual, the boundary between conscious thought and the deeper plane of tailed beast communication less distinct. Where once he'd moved easily between these states, now the transition required concentrated effort. "Kurama," Naruto called into the misty mindscape, searching for the familiar massive form of the Nine Tails. "Can you hear me?" The response came not as the clear communication he'd grown accustomed to, but as fragmented impressions, concern, frustration, determination. Emotional echoes rather than coherent dialogue. Dimensional interference. Connection weakening. Be careful. The fragmented warnings faded in and out like radio signals through static, Kurama's distinctive voice Akazio. Nally emerging with clarity before dissolving again into indistinct emotional impressions. "Someone's targeting Jinchuriki across dimensions," Naruto informed the fox, unsure how much information was successfully transmitting. "The Akatsuki, or some version of them, are collecting tailed beasts from parallel realities." A surge of alarm penetrated the interference, followed by what felt like Kurama attempting to force communication through the dimensional static. "Expected this. Seals weakening between worlds, ancient threat returning." "Ancient threat?" Naruto questioned, struggling to maintain the tenuous connection. "What do you mean? Is it related to Kagaya?" Before Kurama could respond, the mindscape shuddered violently, reality itself seeming to warp around them as external energy pulsed through their connection. The disruption manifested as crimson lightning crackling across Naruto's mental landscape, distorting the already hazy environment into fragmented shards of perception. They're tracking our connection. Close the link, not safe. With that final warning, the mindscape collapsed entirely, ejecting Naruto back to physical consciousness with jarring abruptness. He gasped, eyes flying open as he returned to awareness in the meditation chamber, sweat beading across his forehead despite the cave's cool temperature. Oracle, he called immediately, staggering to his feet. Energy spike. Someone's tracking tailed beast chakra signatures. Barbara's voice responded through the cave's communication system, alarm evident in her tone. Confirmed. Dimension. AL energy fluctuations detected throughout the cave system. Pattern matches previous breaches but distributed rather than localized. Naruto raced back toward the main platform, chakra already flowing. To heighten his senses and prepare defensive measures. They found me through my connection with Kurama. The meditation must have strengthened our link enough for them to detect. Cave security protocols engaging. Barbara announced as warning lights activated throughout the massive underground complex. Dimensional dampening fields online. The specialized countermeasures, installed after the gallery incident based on Zatanna's mystical guidance, created visible distortion throughout the cave as protective energy fields established themselves around critical infrastructure. The dimensional fluctuations responded by concentrating in areas of least resistance, primarily the natural cave formations rather than technology-heavy operational zones. It's working, Barbara observed, monitors displaying real-time analysis of the energy distribution. The dampening fields are forcing the incursion away from critical systems, but not stopping it completely, Naruto noted grimly, watching. As reality distorted near the cave's eastern wall, the dimensional tear wasn't fully forming, more like a thinning of barriers that allowed glimpses into another reality rather than actual transit between worlds. Through the fluctuating distortion, shadowy figures moved with purpose, too indistinct for clear identification, but their methodical scanning movements suggested tactical assessment rather than random observation. They were mapping the Batcave from their dimension, gathering intelligence without actually crossing the boundary. They can see us, Naruto realized with growing alarm. They are using the tailed beast chakra as a targeting mechanism to locate specific points in our reality. Barbara immediately activated additional security protocols, opaque energy shields materialize to block direct observation of the cave's layout and technology. Cave systems engaging privacy mode. Visual data should be obscured from interdimensional surveillance. The countermeasures appear effective. Frustration evident in the shadowy figures' movements as their observation became increasingly limited. After several tense minutes, the dimensional thinning began to recede, reality grad. Ally stabilizing as the incursion withdrew. They're retreating, Barbara confirmed, monitoring equipment registering decreasing energy signatures. Whatever they were attempting, our countermeasures disrupted it successfully. Naruto remained tense until the final fluctuations dissipated completely. They were mapping the Batcave, he stated with certainty. Using my connection to Kurama as an anchor point to orient their dimensional surveillance. Which means they now know you're associated with Batman, Barbara concluded grimly. And they have at least partial data on the cave's existence, if not its specific location or configurations. The security implications were significant. The Batcave represented not just Batman's operational headquarters but a repository of sensitive information about the Justice League, criminal profiles, and technological innovations that could prove devastating in enemy hands. We need to inform Bruce, Naruto began, but Barbara was already ahead of him. Security footage showing Alfred escorting Wayne back toward the cave's main platform despite drive. Tompkins. Evident objections. What happened? Bruce demanded as he arrived, fatigue visible beneath his determined expression. The security alerts registered dimensional incursion directly within the cave system. Naruto explained his meditation attempt and the subsequent surveillance incursion, including Kurama's fragmented warnings about an ancient threat and weakening seals between worlds. Throughout the briefing, Wayne's expression darkened with analytical concern rather than emotional reaction. We need to reconsider your continued presence here, he stated once Naruto finished, the assessment delivered with tactical calculation rather than personal rejection. Your ion to the Nine Tails creates a security vulnerability we can't effectively counter. The conclusion, while logical, struck Naruto like a physical blow. You want me to leave the cave? Where would I go that's safer? The Watchtower. Bruce replied immediately. Justice League headquarters has advanced dimensional shielding developed specifically for extra-dimensional threats. Superman and Zodin. Na could continue your training there while providing additional security. The recommendation made strategic sense, yet something in Naruto rebelled against abandoning his commitment to Gotham. If I leave, who protects the city? You're still recovering, and the dimensional threats are increasing, not decreasing. Robin and Batgirl can cover standard patrol duties, Bruce countered. Extraordinary threats would warrant Justice League intervention regardless. Barbara interjected carefully. Bruce, you know Gotham needs more than standard coverage right now. The criminal underground is already testing boundaries. Sensing Batman's injury, removing Naruto from the equation would create a power vacuum exactly when stability is most critical. Wayne's expression suggested internal conflict. The logical security assessment warring with practical recognition of Gotham's precarious balance. Before he could respond, the cave's communication system activated with an incoming transmission from an unexpected source. Batcave. This is Kakashi, came the familiar voice, tension evident despite his characteristically calm delivery. Priority alert. Dimensional fluctuations detected throughout Gotham. Pattern suggests coordinated surveillance rather than transit attempts. Barbara immediately transferred the communication to the main system, establishing secure video connection with Kakashi's safehouse. The silver-haired shinobi appeared on screen, his usual mask in place but Hittite absent, part of his civilian disguise in Gotham. They're mapping the entire city, Kakashi continued without preamble. Energy signatures match what we encountered at the gallery, but distributed across multiple locations simultaneously. Most concentrated around Wayne Enterprises Tower, GCPD headquarters, and Arkham Asylum. Bruce's analytical mind immediately grasped the implications. Strategic targets. They're identifying Gotham's power centers and security infrastructure. Preliminary for invasion, Barbara suggested grimly, or targeted extraction, Kakashi countered. Based on their previous tactics, they appear more interested in specific acquisitions than territorial control. Naruto processed this assessment against what they already knew about the interdimensional Akatsuki's objectives. They're still hunting Jinchuriki and artifacts that help manipulate tailed beast chakra. But why map Gotham's infrastructure if their targets are specific individuals or objects? Because they anticipate resistance, Bruce concluded, fingers steepled in characteristic contemplatio. And despite his obvious physical discomfort, they're preparing counter-strategies for Gotham's defensive capabilities before attempting major incursions. The tactical assessment chilled Naruto more than the original surveillance attempt. These weren't opportunistic dimensional travelers, they were methodical strategic planners preparing for coordinated operations across multiple realities. We need to accelerate our countermeasures, Barbara stated, already initiating communications with Justice League resources. Zatanna's dimensional barriers need deployment throughout Gotham, not just at Wayne Properties. Agreed. Bruce nodded. And we need more information about their specific objectives beyond the general tailed beast collection. Penguin's auction becomes our immediate priority, Identifying exactly what artifacts they're targeting could reveal their technological limitations. The strategic discussion continued, plans forming and adapting as additional data flowed in from Kakashi's field observations and Justice League monitoring systems. Throughout the conversation, Naruto remained uncharacteristically quiet, mind processing implications beyond immediate tactical responses. If the interdimensional Akatsuki were hunting Jinchuriki across multiple realities, his presence in Gotham represented both vulnerability and opportunity. Vulnerability because his chakra signature potentially endangered his allies. Opportunity because he understood the enemy's objectives in ways Batman and the Justice League couldn't. I should leave Gotham, he stated finally, interrupting ongoing technical discussion between Bruce and Barbara. Not for the Watchtower, that just changes the target. I should draw them away from populated areas entirely. Absolutely not, Bruce rejected immediately, surprising everyone with the vehemence of his response. Isolating yourself plays directly into their strategy. Division is exactly what they want. Agreed, Kakashi added from the video feed. Tactical assessment suggests they're perfectly capable of tracking you regardless of location. Urban environments actually provide advantages, infrastructure for countermeasures, civilian WITN. S is limiting their operational freedom, potential allied intervention. The unified rejection of his suggestion left Naruto momentarily speechless. He'd expected Bruce particularly to prioritize Gotham's security over his continued presence. We adapt, Wayne continued firmly. Increase dimensional shielding around critical infrastructure. Accelerate your training to maximize effectiveness against these specific threats. And most importantly, maintain the appearance of normal Batman operations to prevent criminal opportunism during this vulnerability period. The decisive strategy, protect on rather than isolation, touched something deep in Naruto's core. Throughout his life, protection had often meant separation, distance, containment. From childhood isolation due to Kurama's presence to strategic deployment away from frontline combat during the early war phases, protection had frequently equated to removal. Here, protection meant integration, strengthening connections rather than severing them. The approach resonated with his fundamental beliefs about bonds and community. Then we focus on immediate threats, Naruto concluded, resolution firming his voice. Starting with the Penguin's auction. If interdimensional artifacts are being sold to Gotham's criminal elite, we need to contain them before they're dispersed beyond recovery. Precisely, Bruce confirmed. Oracle will finalize your cover identity. Kakashi, would you be willing to participate as additional security? Your experience with chakra-based artifacts provides technical expertise none of us possess. The silver-haired Jonin considered briefly before nodding. Logical approach. My civilian cover identity has established credentials that could justify auction attendance with minimal modification. As they outlined operational parameters for the auction infiltration, Naruto found himself studying Bruce Wayne with newfound appreciation. Despite physical limitations that would have sidelined most individuals, Wayne's strategic mind remained razor-sharp, adapting to interdimensional threats far beyond his original operational scope with remarkable flexibility. Their planning session extended well beyond Drive Tompkins' recommended timeframe, eventually concluding only when Bruce's physical discomfort became impossible to disguise despite his formidable self-control. As Alfred escorted Wayne CK to medical facilities for overdue treatment, Barbara turned to Naruto with worried expression. He's pushing himself too hard, she observed quietly. The inflammation is causing nerve damage that could become permanent without proper recovery protocols. Naruto nodded understanding. He feels responsible. For Gotham, for me being stranded here, for everything happening on his watch. That's Bruce, Barbara acknowledged with resigned affection. The weight of the world is his personal responsibility, and no argument convinces him otherwise. The observation struck uncomfortably close to Naruto's own tendencies. How many times had Kakashi-sensei or Sakura chided him for assuming responsibility far beyond reasonable expectations? The parallel between himself and Bruce Wayne extended beyond their current shared identity as Batman. Get some rest, Barbara suggested, noting his thoughtful expression. Tonight's patrol needs to focus on Penguin's organization specifically, which Anne's East End and the Iceberg Lounge periphery. High concentration of his enforcers in those sectors. Naruto nodded agreement, fatigue finally registering as adrenaline from the dimensional incursion faded. Wake me if anything changes with the dimensional readings. Kakashi will continue monitoring from his position. Will do, she confirmed. And Naruto, for what it's worth, I think you made the right call with Selena. Sometimes Bruce's paranoia overcorrects, especially where she's concerned. Their history complicates his strategic assessment. The validation, coming from someone who understood both Batman's methodologies and Gotham's complex ecosystem intimately, offered reassurance that his instinctive approach hadn't been entirely misguided. Thanks, Barbara, he replied simply, genuine appreciation evident in his tired smile. Sleep came fitfully in the guest quarters Alfred had prepared within the manor proper. Dreams fragmented between Konoha memories and Gotham realities, familiar faces distorted through the lens of dimensional displacement. Sakura performing surgery alongside Drive Tompkins. Sasuke and Bruce Wayne exchanging stoic assessments of tactical vulnerabilities. Kakashi reading Ika Ika while Alfred served tea with impeccable British composure. Most disturbing were dreams of Kurama, the Nine-Tails struggling against shadowy restraints that seemed to stretch across dimensional boundaries. The Fox's warnings echoed through fractured mindscapes, ancient threat returning, seals weakening between worlds. Naruto woke abruptly, afternoon sunlight filtering through specialized blinds as his consciousness surfaced from troubled sleep. Something about Kurama's fragmented warning nagged at him, connections he couldn't quite formulate between ancient threats, dimensional seals, and the current Akatsuki activities. Rather than immediately returning to the Batcave, Naruto found himself wandering through Wayne Manor's massive library, a collection that Riva led the Hokage's private archives in both size and specialized content. Bruce had mentioned historical research materials regarding dimensional theory, materials that might provide context for Kurama's warnings. The library's organization system initially baffled him, complex categorization that made Konoha's mission classification system seem straightforward by comparison. Eventually, he discovered a section dedicated to what Bruce had labeled extra-dimensional research, containing everything from ancient mystical texts to cutting-edge theoretical physics publications. One volume particularly caught his attention, a leather-bound manuscript with characters reminiscent of archaic forms he'd seen in Konoha's most restricted historical archives. The language wasn't identical to his world's ancient script, but similarities suggested parallel evolutionary development. Finding anything interesting? The question startled Naruto from his examination. He turned to find Alfred standing in the library doorway, the butler's expression suggesting he'd been observing for some time before announcing his presence. Maybe, Naruto acknowledged, indicating the manuscript. These symbols look similar to ancient writing from my world. Something about seals and dimensional boundaries. Alfred approached with measured steps, examining the text with scholarly interest. The Ludlow manuscript. Master Bruce acquired it from a private collector in Istanbul approximately 7 years ago. It purportedly contains accounts of ancient beings who traveled between realities using host vessels. Human intermediaries who carried their consciousness across dimensional barriers. The description sent uncomfortable recognition through Naruto. Like Jinchuriki and tailed beasts in my world, Kurum, the Nine Tails, exists partially outside conventional reality. His chakra operates differently than human energy. Fascinating parallel, Alfred observed, carefully turning brittle pages to reveal intricate illustrations. The manuscript describes these interdimensional entities as ancient ones, who were eventually sealed away by what it calls the first binding, some kind of multiversal containment system that restricted their ability to travel between worlds. Naruto studied the illustrations with growing concern, stylized depictions of massive beings bearing unsettling similarities to the tailed beast's more primal forms. Not identical, but the parallels seemed too specific for coincidence. Kurama said something about seals weakening between worlds, he recalled, connecting fragments from his troubled meditation session. Called it an ancient threat returning. Could these interdimensional breaches be damaging some kind of primordial sealing system? Alfred's expression grew, troubled as he considered this possibility. Master Bruce has encountered several entities claiming ancient multiversal origins during his Justice League tenure. Most notable among them was Barbados, a bat-like deity from what they called the Dark Multiverse, who attempted incursion through specialized metals with dimensional properties. Metal with dimensional properties? Naruto questioned, Emery triggering from Catwoman's information. Selena mentioned weapons that supposedly channel energy. Could they be made from similar materials? A concerning possibility, Alfred acknowledged. Perhaps we should bring this information to Master Bruce's attention. Connections between ancient interdimensional entities and current incursions could provide valuable context for defensive planning. They returned to the Batcave together, finding Bruce already at the main computer despite drive. Tompkins. Explicit instructions for continued rest. The manuscript drew immediate interest, Wayne's analytical mind quickly identifying potential connections to their current situation. The ancient ones described here share characteristics with entities the Justice League classifies as multiversa. Constants, beings that exist across multiple realities simultaneously rather than having distinct variants in each dimension, Bruce explained, examining the text with practiced efficiency. Zatanna has referenced similar concepts in mystical contexts, primal forces that predate the current multiverse structure. Like the Otsutsuki clan in my world, Naruto suggested, pieces connecting in his mind. Kagaya, the one who started the Fourth Great Ninja War, came from beyond our dimension originally. She harvested chakra across worlds before being sealed away. Bruce's expression sharpened with recognition. Harvesting energy across multiple realities. The pattern matches what we're seeing with the interdimensional Akatsuki. Not coincidence. They're following an ancient template. But why target Jinchuriki specifically? Naruto questioned. If they're just after energy sources, there are more accessible options in various dimensions. Because tailed beasts already exist partially outside conventional dimensional constraints, Bruce theorized, fingers moving across keyboards to access Justice League databases. Your nine tails isn't just energy, it's a consciousness capable of transcending dimensional boundaries under specific conditions. The implication struck Naruto with chilling clarity. They're not just collecting energy. They're collecting dimensional anchors, beings that can maintain connections between realities even when natural boundaries reassert themselves. Bruce nodded grimly, data flowing across screens as he accessed increasingly classified information. Justice League encountered similar methodology during the Darkseid War. Interdimensional transit requires anchor points, individuals or objects that resonate across multiple realities simultaneously. Like me, Naruto concluded quietly. As a Jinchuriki, I function as a natural dimensional anchor point because of Kurama's extra-dimensional properties. Which explains why they can track you specifically across realities. Bruce confirmed. Your unique energy signature creates ripples in the multiverse fabric that they've learned to detect and follow. The revelation explained much about He coordinated pursuit Naruto had experienced, but raised even more disturbing questions about the ultimate objective behind such methodical dimensional harvesting. Their discussion continued as Barbara arrived for evening shift, bringing additional data from Justice League monitoring systems tracking dimensional fluctuations globally. The pattern remained consistent, increasing frequency and magnitude of breaches, most concentrated around locations with metaphysical significance according to various mystical traditions. It's like they're testing the locks on reality's doors, Barbara observed, highlighting correlation between breach locations and historical sites associated with interdimensional legends. Probing for weaknesses in whatever separates discrete realities. The first binding, Naruto recalled from the manuscript. Some kind of primordial sealing system that keeps these, ancient ones, from freely traveling between dimensions. Bruce's expression darkened with recognition. Dr. Fate has referenced similar concepts, primal containment structures embedded in reality itself that prevent certain entities from accessing our dimension directly. He called it the Founda Chional Seal, a multiversal construct that predates current reality frameworks. The parallels between these mystical concepts and Naruto's fragmented communications with Kurama suggested connections deeper than coincidental terminology. Something fundamental linked the tailed beasts to these interdimensional dynamics, connections that might explain why Jinchuriki were being targeted across multiple realities. As evening approached, their theoretical discussion gave way to practical preparation for the night's patrol. Naruto suited up methodically, each component of Batman's costume now familiar through repeated use. The cowl settled into place with practiced ease, transforming his posture and demeanor into Gotham's guardian regardless of who wore the suit. Focus on information gathering tonight, Bruce instructed as final adjustments were completed. Penguin's organization has expanded territorial control since my injury became public knowledge. His lieutenants will be overseeing PR, preparation for the auction, track their movements, identify storage locations for the dimensional artifacts. No direct confrontation unless absolutely necessary, Barbara added, initiating communication systems within the cowl. We need to understand exactly what we're dealing with before making overt moves. Naruto nodded agreement, Batman's persona settling over him like a familiar cloak. Observation priority. I'll maintain distance unless civilian safety requires intervention. As he prepared to depart, Bruce called him back with uncharacteristic hesitation. Naruto, about this morning's security assessment. My recommendation regarding the watchtower was tactically sound but premature. Your presence in Gotham remains necessary, regardless of potential security complications. Coming from Bruce Wayne, this acknowledgement represented significant professional respect. Naruto recognized it as the closest approximation of an apology Wayne's personality would permit. We'll manage the security risks, Naruto assured him simply. Gotham needs Batman, whichever one of us wears the suit. With that understanding established, Naruto departed for patrol, the Batcycle carrying him Hero cave tunnels toward Gotham's waiting darkness. The city greeted him with its usual contradictions: architectural beauty concealing human suffering, technological marvels illuminating ancient corruption. The East End, primary focus for tonight's intelligence gathering, represented Gotham's stark economic divisions at their most visible. Crumbling infrastructure bordered luxury developments, spurred poverty existing in the literal shadows of extreme wealth. Here, the Penguin's criminal organization had established deepest roots, exploiting both desperation and aspiration with equal cynicism. Naruto established observation position atop a partially constructed luxury high-rise, one of many development projects perpetually stalled by corruption and violence. From this vantage point, he could monitor movement patterns around 3 suspected storage facilities Barbara had identified as potentially housing interdimensional artifacts. "Oracle, I'm in position," he communicated, activating the cowl's enhanced visual systems. Movement at the eastern warehouse. 4 vehicles, looks like private security rather than Penguin's usual muscle. "Confirmed," Barbara responded, satellite eye. Majory supplementing his direct observation. "Professional contractors, Blackgate Security Services, formerly known as Cold Harbor. They're mercenaries who specialize in high-value cargo protection. Definitely not standard criminal muscle." The distinction suggested whatever awaited auction required protection beyond conventional weapons and thugs. Naruto adjusted his position for better observation of personnel movements, cataloging security patterns with methodical attention to detail, a skill Bruce had emphasized repeatedly during their training sessions. 8 guards visible, standard wrought Asian patterns with overlapping fields of vision, he reported. "Professional setup, not typical Penguin operation. These people have military or specialized law enforcement background." "Makes sense. If they're guarding interdimensional artifacts," Barbara noted. "Standard criminals wouldn't understand the handling requirements or potential dangers." As Naruto continued observation, movement on an adjacent rooftop caught his peripheral vision, a shadow moving with deliberate grace between architectural features. The figure paused occasionally, body language suggesting similar surveillance objectives rather than random traversal. "I'm not alone up here," Naruto communicated quietly. "Someone else is watching Penguin's operation." "GCPD," Barbara suggested, though her tone indicated skepticism. "Too skilled for standard police," Naruto assessed, tracking the shadow's methodical movement patterns. "Professional infiltrator. Movement suggests specialized training." The mystery observe. R continued systematic surveillance for nearly 20 minutes before apparently completing their assessment. As they prepared to depart, Naruto made his decision, identifying this unknown variable took priority over continued warehouse observation. "I'm following our rooftop friend," he informed Barbara. "Could be competitor, could be ally. Either way, we need to know who else is interested in these artifacts." "Agreed," she confirmed, "but maintain distance until identification is confirmed. Unknown capabilities mean unknown threats." Naruto tracked the figure across Gotham's rooftops, maintaining careful separation to avoid detection while never losing visual contact. The observer moved with impressive efficiency, using architectural features for concealment while maintaining consistent travel velocity regardless of terrain challenges. Their path led away from the East End toward Gotham's financial district, specifically the towering headquarters of Powers Technology, one of Wayne Enterprises' primary competitors. Rather than approaching the main building, however, the figure descended to street level via fire escape, entering an adjacent structure that housed several smaller technology firms. "Oracle. They've entered Meridian Systems, subsidiary of Powers Technology focusing on experimental energy research," Naruto reported, maintaining observation position across the street. "Any connection to Penguin or dimensional technology?" "Checking," Barbara replied, the sound of rapid keystrokes accompanying her voice. "Meridian received substantial funding last quarter for a LTER native energy source development, very vague project descriptions with minimal public documentation. Could be legitimate research or cover for something else." Naruto considered options for proceeding. Direct confrontation risked alerting potential hostiles without confirming identities or objectives. Continued external observation provided limited additional intelligence. The situation Kae. D for infiltration. Determining exactly who this observer was and their connection to Penguin's interdimensional artifacts. I'm going in, he decided. Passive infiltration. Identification priority. Proceed with caution. Barbara agreed. Building schematics indicate minimal security beyond standard corporate protocols. No meta-human detection systems registered with city planning. Utilizing Batman's specialized equipment, Naruto accessed the building through maintenance systems rather than obvious entry points. The interior reflected standard corporate design, functional efficiency prioritized over aesthetic considerations. With modular workspaces organized around central service cores. At this late hour, most areas stood empty, skeleton security staff monitoring primarily through automated systems rather than direct observation. Naruto navigated between surveillance zones with practiced ease, tracking his quarry through subtle environmental indicators, a recently accessed keypad. Displaced air currents suggesting recent movement, warmth signatures on door handles. The trail led to a specialized laboratory section requiring elevated security clearance, biometric access control. Ling reinforced doors with dedicated surveillance systems. Rather than attempting direct breach, Naruto utilized maintenance ducts to access adjacent spaces, establishing observation position through specialized fiber optic equipment that allowed visual access without physical presence. The laboratory beyond contained equipment configurations unfamiliar even by Gotham's advanced technological street standards, apparatus that seemed designed for energy manipulation rather than conventional research applications. In the center, a specialized containment unit housed what appeared to be fractured stone tablets bearing inscriptions reminiscent of the manuscript he'd examined earlier. More immediately concerning was the laboratory's current occupant. The figure he'd followed from East End now stood examining these artifacts with professional assessment rather than casual curiosity. With surveillance equipment providing clearer visual identification, Naruto finally recognized his quarry. Oracle. He communicated with controlled urgency. Our observer is League of Assassins, specifically Shiva, based on physical characteristics and movement patterns. Lady Shiva. Barbara's voice sharpened with alarm. Confirmed hostile. She's one of the world's deadliest assassins, particularly dangerous in close-quarters combat. Bruce has classified her as Omega-level threat requiring Justice League intervention. The assessment matched files Naruto had studied during Batman training. Sandra Wu-san, known professionally as Lady Shiva, represented the pinnacle of human combat capability without metahuman enhancement. Her presence investigating the same technological trail they pursued suggested complications beyond ordinary criminal enterprises. She's examining artifacts similar to what we found in the Ludlow manuscript. Naruto observed, fiber optic feed capturing detailed imagery of the stone tablets. Appears to be taking measurements rather than attempting theft or sabotage. Intelligence gathering, Barbara concluded. The question is, for whom? Shiva occasionally operates independently, but typically maintains connection to either the League of Assassins or specific contract employers. As they considered implications, Shiva completed her examination, producing specialized equipment to capture detailed scans of the artifacts before methodically erasing evidence of her presence. Her efficiency suggested extensive experience with covert operations, nothing left disturbed, no traces for casual observation to detect. She's preparing to exit, Naruto reported. Same route as entry, maintaining complete operational security, professional methodology consistent with highest-tier infiltration training. Let her go, Barbara instructed after brief consideration. Confront. Asian provides limited strategic value and significant risk. Better to understand why the League of Assassins is interested in these artifacts before revealing our awareness. Naruto acknowledged the tactical assessment despite instinctive desire to intercept the assassin. Batman's approach prioritized information acquisition over immediate confrontation when dealing with high-level operatives. Lee K. Shiva. Understanding motivations often proved more valuable than capturing individual actors in larger conspiracies. He maintained observation as Shiva departed, her extraction as methodical as her infiltration had been. Once certain she had fully vacated the premises, Naruto conducted his own examination of the laboratory and artifacts, capturing detailed imagery for analysis while maintaining The same operational security that had impressed him in the assassin's methodology. Transmitting visual data, he informed Oracle, specialized equipment in the cowl capturing multispectral imagery of the stone tablets and associated research equipment. Laboratory configuration suggests energy extraction protocols rather than conventional analysis. Receiving, Barbara confirmed. Preliminary assessment suggests these artifacts predate known historical records. Material composition includes elements not typically found in Earth's geological formations. The extraterrestrial or interdimensional origin aligned with their developing understanding of the broader conspiracy. Meridian Systems, and by extension Powers Technology, appeared to be researching alien or extradimensional technology, potentially related to the same artifacts Penguin planned to auction. Corporate espionage with interdimensional components, Naruto summarized as he completed his examination. Penguin obtains artifacts through black market channels. Powers Technology researches similar materials through seemingly legitimate corporate infrastructure, and the League of Assassins monitors both operations. Wit. HR interdimensional Akatsuki pursuing parallel objectives across multiple realities, Barbara added grimly. The conspiracy extends beyond conventional criminal corporate boundaries into something approaching global security threat. As Naruto prepared to extract from the facility, movement on external security monitors caught his attention, vehicles approaching with tactical deployment patterns rather than normal corporate security protocols. Oracle, we have incoming, he reported, tactical assessment shifting to immediate threat response. Paramilitary force, approximately 12 operatives with specialized equipment. Not standard corporate security. Identification markings. Barbara questioned, satellite imagery shifting to provide aerial perspective. None visible. Blackout tactical gear. Communication systems suggest coordinated operation under central command. Naruto continued observation while calculating extraction options. They're deploying for facility breach raid. Than perimeter security. This is an extraction team. Someone else wants those artifacts, Barbara concluded. Possibly responding to Shiva's infiltration if they had surveillance systems beyond what we detected. The tactical situation evolved rapidly from intelligence gathering to potential combat scenario. If these operatives obtained the interdimensional artifacts, another player entered an already complicated conspiracy. Worse, their apparent willingness to conduct armed assault suggested disregard for subtlety that might escalate the entire situation. I need to secure those artifacts before they're extracted, Naruto decided, already moving toward the laboratory's central containment system. Otherwise we're dealing with 3 separate factions possessing potentially catastrophic technology. Agreed, Barbara confirmed, but priority remains avoiding direct confrontation if possible. These artifacts need secure containment at Wayne Enterprises facilities where we can properly analyze containment requirements. Naruto accessed the containment system using specialized equipment from Batman's utility belt, override protocols Wayne had developed for precisely such emergency extraction scenarios. The system resistance suggested multiple redundant security measures, but nothing beyond the capabilities of Batman's specialized tools. As he worked, the tactical situation deteriorated. Breach teams accessed the building's ground floor, moving with military precision toward the laboratory's location. Security systems engaged automatically, but their countermeasures read ineffective against the team's specialized equipment. Breach team has metahuman detection systems, Naruto observed as specialized sensors activated on approaching operatives. They're specifically equipped for powered opposition. Mercenaries with access to advanced technology, Barbara assessed. Potentially Cobra organization or similar paramilitary faction with interdimensional interests. The containment system finally yielded to override protocols, specialized cases extending from the utility belt to secure individual artifacts with protective measures designed for unknown hazardous materials. Naruto worked methodically despite approaching threat, professional focus maintaining operational efficiency regardless of external pressure. Artifacts secured, he reported as the final tablet transferred to specialized containment. Proceeding to extraction point Alpha. The predetermined route would avoid direct confrontation with incoming operatives while providing multiple contingency options if engagement became unavoidable. Naruto moved with practiced efficiency, navigating between surveillance zones with Batman's characteristic precision. His exit route took him rough ventilation systems toward the building's eastern face, opposite the primary breach team's approach vector. The plan proceeded smoothly until an unexpected security protocol activated: atmospheric containment systems sealing ventilation access points throughout the facility. Oracle, containment protocols engaging, Naruto reported, immediately shifting to secondary extraction route. Build-in G designed to compartmentalize in case of breach. Someone activated maximum security lockdown. Not standard corporate security, Barbara confirmed, accessing deeper infrastructure systems through specialized backdoors. This is military-grade containment, designed for biological or radiological hazard containment. Powers technology has capabilities beyond their public profile. The implications: suggested corporate involvement in interdimensional research far beyond legitimate scientific inquiry. Powers technology apparently maintains specialized facilities for containing potentially OPHIC threats, facilities disguised as conventional research laboratories. Naruto adapted to changing circumstances, utilizing specialized equipment to bypass sealed access points while maintaining adequate distance from approaching breach teams. The building's compartmentalization worked to his advantage, creating barriers that slowed the paramilitary forces while his specialized equipment allowed continued movement. Approaching alternative extraction point, he communicated, navigating toward maintenance access on the building's northern face. Breach team has reached the laboratory level. They'll discover the artifacts missing momentarily. As if triggered by his assessment, alarm systems throughout the facility elevated to maximum alert status, lights shifting to emergency configurity. ONs as automated announcements indicated complete facility lockdown. The breach team had discovered their primary objective missing and initiated facility-wide search protocols. Time to accelerate departure, Naruto decided, abandoning stealth in favor of rapid extraction. Batman's grapnel launcher deployed, specialized anchors securing to structural elements as he prepared for direct external descent rather than continued internal navigation. The sudden shift in approach triggered automated defense systems, security turrets extending from concealed wall compartments, targeting systems a key. Ring his position with mechanical precision. The weaponry appeared non-standard, energy signatures suggesting specialized technology rather than conventional ammunition. Oracle, facility defenses include energy weapons, Naruto reported. Evasive movement already carrying him beyond initial targeting parameters. Signature suggests directed energy rather than projectiles. Powers technology has military contracts for experimental weapons platforms, Barbara confirmed, concern evident in her voice. Those systems may have capabilities beyond conventional countermeasures. Naruto didn't wait to test this assessment. Shadow clone technique deploying multiple duplicates to confuse targeting systems while he continued toward extraction. The defense systems recalibrated rapidly, tracking IPLE targets simultaneously with concerning precision. Targeting algorithms adapting to multiple contacts, he observed as energy weapons discharged toward his shadow clones. These systems have encountered meta-human abilities before. The observation raised concerning questions about Powers technology's previous encounters with powered individuals. Specialized adaptation suggested deliberate sign elements rather than coincidental effectiveness. The corporation potentially maintained significant unreported meta-human research beyond public knowledge. As shadow clones provided continuing distraction, Naruto reached the extraction point, structural access leading directly to external building face. The grapnel launcher deployed again, specialized attachment securing to adjacent building. As he prepared for rapid traversal across the intervening space. Before he could complete the extraction, new complications materialized. The breach team had adapted to his presence, deploying specialized intercept operatives to his location with concerning speed and tactical coordination. Unlike standard security personnel, these individuals moved with enhanced capabilities suggesting technology. Augmentation or meta-human attributes. Oracle, intercept team displays enhanced mobility, Naruto reported, engaging defensive posture as three operatives converged on his position. Possible technological enhancement rather than natural meta-human capabilities. Powers technology experimented with combat exoskeletons under military contracts, Barbara provided, data streaming across the cowl's heads-up display. Prototype systems never reached production due to ethical considerations, according to official documentation. The enhanced operatives attacked with coordinated precision. Movement patterns suggesting centralized tactical control rather than individual initiative. Their augmented systems provided significant strength and speed advantages, though nothing approaching Naruto's natural capabilities even without drawing on Kurama's chakra. Rather than engaging directly, which would require revealing capabilities beyond Batman's public profile, Naruto utilized the environment and specialized equipment to counter their technological advantages. Smoke pellets disrupted targeting systems while flash-bang devices temporarily overwhelmed sensory enhancements, creating momentary advantages for tactical repositioning. They're using specialized communications beyond standard radio frequencies, he observed as disruptive techniques proved less effective than anticipated. Possible neural linkage or quantum entanglement protocols allowing coordination despite conventional countermeasures. The assessment suggested technological sophistication beyond public corporate C-app abilities, further evidence that Power's technology maintained significant black research programs outside regulatory oversight. Such advanced systems typically required years of development beyond publicly acknowledged technological boundaries. As the engagement continued, Naruto maintained defensive focus while completing extraction preparations. The specialized containment cases secured within his utility system represented the primary mission objective. Securing interdimensional artifacts took priority over confrontation with corporate security assets. Ready for extraction, he communicated as final preparations completed. Initiating in 3, 2, 1. The grapnel system activated, specialized motors pulling him rapidly across the gap between buildings as pursuing operatives attempted final interception. Their enhanced systems allowed impressive pursuit velocity, but insufficient to match the specialized equipment Batman had refined through years of field operations. Naruto landed on adjacent rooftop, immediately transitioning to rapid movement away from Power's Technologies facility. The pursuit continued briefly before corporate jurisdictional limitations apparently restricted their operatives' range, the enhanced security team maintaining observation but ceasing active pursuit once specific territorial boundaries were crossed. Pursuit terminated at corporate security jurisdiction, Naruto reported, continuing evasive movement patterns to ensure complete extraction. Artifacts secured, proceeding to designated analysis point. Batmobile en route to your location, Barbara confirmed. Automated systems will rendezvous at intersection of Burden and Finger in approximately 3 minutes. Specialized containment protocols engaging for artifact transport. The extraction proceeded according to established protocols, the Batmobile's automated systems arriving precisely as calculated for secure artifact transfer. Specialized compartments within the vehicle provided containment significantly beyond the temporary measures available in the utility belt, ensuring safe transport to Wayne Enterprises facilities for proper analysis. As Naruto secured THE artifacts and prepared for return to the Batcave, his communicator activated with unexpected transmission, Kakashi's voice carrying unusual urgency despite his characteristically calm delivery. Batman, priority alert, the silver-haired Jonin communicated. Dimensional fluctuations detected at the warehouse you were originally observing. Pattern suggests imminent breach rather than surveillance. The timing seemed unlikely to be coincidental, interdimensional activity manifesting at Penguin's storage facility immediately following artifact extraction from Power's technology suggested coordination between seemingly separate factions. Change of plans, Naruto decided immediately. Batmobile will continue automated return to the cave with secured artifacts. I'm redirecting to Penguin's rehoused to investigate dimensional activity. Agreed, Barbara confirmed. Kakashi is already en route from his position. Zatanna has been alerted but is currently addressing similar fluctuations in Metropolis. Apparently coordinated incursions are occurring simultaneously in multiple cities. The pattern suggested strategic escalation rather than isolated incidents. Coordinated dimensional he's across multiple locations indicated predetermined operational timeline potentially accelerated by recent artifact acquisitions. Whatever conspiracy connected these seemingly disparate elements, events were clearly moving towards some form of culmination. Naruto traveled rapidly toward the original warehouse location, utilizing rooftop traversal rather than ground transportation to minimize observation probability. As he approached, distinctive energy signatures became visible even without specialized equipment. reality itself seeming to warp around the structure as dimensional barriers thin. Ned under some form of deliberate manipulation. Visual confirmation of dimensional activity, he reported, establishing observation position with adequate tactical withdrawal options. Breach appear. Controlled rather than chaotic. Deliberate manipulation rather than natural instability. Kakashi's voice joined the communication. Approaching from western vector. Energy signature matches preview. Akatsuki incursions but with modified harmonics. They've refined their dimensional transit technique. As both shinobi converged on the warehouse from different approaches, the dimensional distortio intensified. Reality literally folding inward as specialized equipment visible through warehouse windows generated precisely modulated energy fields. Unlike previous breaches where interdimensional travelers entered this reality, this operation appeared designed to extract something from this dimension back to another. They're creating an extraction portal, Naruto realized with growing concern. Not bringing something in, taking something out. The artifacts Penguin was storing, Kakashi theorized, now visible on adjacent rooftop as he established parallel observation position. Coordinate. Operation. Secure interdimensional materials from multiple sources simultaneously. Before they could formulate intervention strategy, unexpected movement caught their attention, figures approaching. The warehouse not from within but from nearby streets. The newcomers moved with military precision similar to the Powers Technology Breach team, but with distinctive modifications to their tactical equipment that suggested different organizational affiliation. Oracle. Additional players entering the field, Naruto reported, tracking the new arrivals with specialized optics. Paramilitary force approaching warehouse from ground level. Different operational signature from Powers Technology team, these have distinctive markings. Visual identification confirms League of Shadows operatives, Kakashi added. His experienced assessment matching Batman's database recognition. Elite cadre rather than standard forces. These are Ra's al Ghul's personal guard, not conventional assets. The League's presence transformed strategic considerations significantly. Ra's al Ghul represented one of Batman's most dangerous and sophisticated adversaries, a centuries-old strategic genius with resources spanning global infrastructure and philosophical objectives beyond conventional criminal motivation. League involvement suggests this conspiracy extends beyond what we initially theorized, Barbara assessed. Concern evident despite her professional tone. Ra's typically pursues objectives with civilization-level implications rather than standard power acquisition. The situation continued evolving. As League operatives established perimeter positions around the warehouse, not attacking immediately but securing tactical advantage for potential intervention. Their deployment patterns suggested IOR intelligence regarding both the warehouse contents and the dimensional activity currently manifesting within. They're waiting for something, Kakashi observed, experienced tactical assessment identifying operational patterns consistent with anticipated event rather than immediate objective. This is an intercept mission, not an acquisition operation. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.